Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening, Chloe nodded. Thanks, Felix. Yeah. Perhaps I was being biased against Chloe due to knowing what she had been through. Anyone could empathize with her situation, and I sure as hell didn't take it easy on Ecchi. But in the end, Ecchi was partially to blame for the attack. Chloe was a bit different compared to that. I sighed. I hate time bullshit. It was all so confusing and complicated. Luminous and Hinata were silent the entire time, likely giving us time to think and process everything. It's not like the Famuth invasion really affected either of them in any way. So you did not tell the entire truth to me then, Chloe, Hinata? Asked Luminous. Hinata is the one who answered this time. We were afraid that if we informed you too much about the current timeline, then things may change. Which is why we told you about previous timelines, telling you how things should have gone but didn't go in this timeline. Luminous glared before sighing. Very well then. I am upset, but I can understand. Hinata smiled. Thanks, Luminous. Luminous turned away. Humphrey. I'll continue now, said Chloe. Since after so many loops, something finally went differently, Hinata and I were determined to return to this future, and so we kept past events the same before eventually being sealed in the Holy Ark, and we were successful. Finished Chloe. That's one hell of a story, I commented. Hinata smirked at me proudly. Hey, I sealed Veldora. Could you say the same, Felix? Hinata asked tauntingly. I looked at her dryly. Maybe not. But you sealed a nerfed Veldora, one without an ultimate skill and one that had no combat instinct. Maybe you can boast if you manage to beat the current Veldora. Hinata's lips twitched. Fine, but I will enjoy taunting Veldora with my victory over him. I rolled my eyes. Child. I am not a child. Should I call you a hag then? I responded with a roll of my eyes. Humphrey. Hinata pouted as she pretended to not have heard me, looking to the side with some annoyance. Hinata was usually calm and level-headed, but now she was acting childish. Well, I'm not sure about Rimuru, but I'd like to hear a bit more about my alternate self. I heard from Luminous that he taught you Distortion Field, Chloe, and then you taught that to Luminous. Chloe nodded. Yup. That version of Felix Knit didn't undergo the Harvest Festival, so he was weaker than you are now. But from that weakness came innovation. He came up with some new arts that were really strong. One of them he taught to me due to him seeing my talent with spatial magic. It was Distortion Field. I taught that art to Hinata, and then she taught it to Luminous. I nodded. I see. I turned to Hinata. I would normally be surprised that you managed to learn something like that. You aren't a monstrous talent at spatial magic, but it seems my blessing did all the heavy lifting. Hinata nodded. Right, without your blessing, it would have taken me far longer to learn. Thanks for that. No problem. It seems the intent I have when blessing someone matters, so it automatically transferred to you when your soul binded to Mathematician and was transferred to Chloe. Hinata blushed. Right. Your intent. So, tell me more about my alternate. I wanna hear what he's missing out on. Hinata laughed. Of course, you think he's the one missing out. Did it ever cross your mind that you may be missing out on something? I put my hands behind my head and leaned back. Nah. Well, there is one thing, I said. Oh? I didn't think you'd admit that. What is it that the great Felix may be missing out on? Hinata asked curiously. I gave her a flirty smile. Well, I heard that you and I were together in one of those other timelines. How unfortunate for me, to miss out on a girl like you. I sighed dramatically. Being a flirt was great, and since I was handsome, I could get away with it. The world was unfair, and I would relentlessly abuse that to my advantage like a dickhead. Luminous was especially fun to mess with due to her reactions. I even suspected that maybe she was into me, but that wasn't likely. If she was, then I'd get to it when she brought it up. Hinata's lips twitched before she laughed, though I noticed a hint of red on her face. PFFT, that was horrible, even for you. I rolled my eyes. Hey, it was the only material I had. Lucky bastard. I heard Rimuru whisper, while Chloe was giving Hinata a discreet thumbs up. Weird. My eyes narrowed as a certain suspicion popped up. Could she really? Perhaps I'm misunderstanding, but I decided that I'd just let things naturally progress if what I was suspecting was true. Other than that, I doubt I'm missing out on anything, I said. Chloe tilted her head. Well, not much is different from this timeline, ignoring the obvious. Your subordinates weren't as strong since they did not receive a gift from your harvest festival, and you also did not have any primordials under your command at that point. I groaned. No Arcuade? Then that must mean that I had to do actual work. Chloe laughed. Foo-fa-foo, sort of. You did some work at the beginning before finding someone else to throw your work at. Rimuru tried the same, but Shuna got angry at him. I laughed. Ha-ha, whipped. Rimuru glared at me. Shut up. Chloe and Hinata told us stories of both Rimuru and I's alternates. Even Luminous was paying attention. Looks like our alternates had pretty fun lives. Rimuru nodded. Yeah, it's a shame that they don't really exist now. I shrugged my shoulders. I'm not that torn up about it. If they existed, I wouldn't exist, and I like existing very much. The only thing I need to be careful of is not being erased by some time bullshit from Chloe's end or someone else's end. Notice. Odin has begun analyzing the time leap function of Kronos, Lord of Space-Time, and has begun making countermeasures. Good. Now that we've goofed off enough, why don't you two tell us about our future enemies? Chapter 138, An Alternate History. Alright, now that we have all the backstory, why don't you tell us all you know about our future enemies? If the Eastern Empire consistently invades in all these timelines, I doubt they won't do so in this one. I had honestly considered just taking the fight to the Eastern Empire, but honestly, that was a really risky plan. We didn't know much about the infrastructure of the Eastern Empire. Most of the spies I had Lalatina send there didn't return with much useful information. I had no idea what to expect if I wanted to go solo in the Eastern Empire. I knew I was stronger than most, but I didn't want my arrogance to blind me from the possibility that the Empire might have something that could deal with me. I just didn't have enough information. They had a true dragon for one that used to slap Veldora around. Even if Veldora's perspective may be a bit biased due to trauma, a true dragon was still a very dangerous existence. Even the information about the other timelines wasn't that helpful. We had learned a lot about some of the other timelines. For one, Hinata was usually sent to Tempest as an envoy from Ruberius, which was meant to see if Tempest truly wished for peace. From there, Tempest would grow closer to humanity with Hinata's endorsement, and things would only grow from there. It was pretty interesting to hear about a what if about myself, but I didn't think too much about it. In the end, I wouldn't exist if all those other versions of me hadn't been erased. I could empathize with them because they were a version of me, but in the end, I'm selfish. I'd rather I exist than those other versions of me existing, and if those guys were really me, then I'm sure that they'd feel the same. But there was still more I wanted to hear about these other timelines, like all the information Chloe and Hinata had on the Eastern Empire, and my actions after Rimuru's death. I wanted to know everything. Information was key in war, after all. The Eastern Empire had made themselves out to be a threat, and while I had always known that they would likely attempt to expand outwards, I didn't think it would be so soon, and I didn't think we would lose. It seems that I had underestimated the Eastern Empire. Earlier, I had simply taken the conversation off track since I could tell that Rimuru needed some time to think everything through. Even with thought acceleration, he still needed a few moments to himself. With my earlier sentence, the cheerful mood vanished. Chloe and Hinata both nodded. Right, if I died in all these other timelines, the likelihood that the Eastern Empire was behind my death is pretty high, isn't it? They did invade during that time, right? Asked Rimuru. Chloe nodded. Maybe. I always had a suspicion that the same person who killed Hinata was the one that killed Rimuru. From what I understand, there are a lot of powerful people in the Eastern Empire. Maybe you were defeated by a single person or maybe a group of people. I nodded. Rimuru likely wouldn't have been that strong back then. Even with the added 5 years he had, it was probably still possible to gang up on him, let alone the fact that an ultimate awakened would probably beat him. The difference between post-harvest festival Rimuru and pre-harvest festival Rimuru was just that vast. He attained divinity and 3 ultimate skills in a single night and then further went on to develop a 4th ultimate skill shortly after. Rimuru couldn't even manipulate the laws of the world to a high degree before his harvest festival. He would get slapped around by an ultimate awakened or someone who could manipulate the laws of the world. Rimuru nodded. Yeah, if someone was able to kill Hinata instantly, then they would probably be able to beat me, too. He was probably remembering the ass-kicking that Hinata had delivered to him before his harvest festival. There was a flash of light that I couldn't follow, and then Hinata was just dead. Chloe explained. The person who killed them was either a very powerful saint, or they had some very high-tier magi tech. Magi tech? Like what Sarian does? I asked curiously. The Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarian was a dynasty focused on development. They tried to combine technology and magic without pushing the boundaries too much due to the angels and their regular attacks. Fuck those pigeons. Chloe nodded. Sorta, but they are a lot more advanced. Magi tanks, airships, guns. Magi tanks sounds interesting. But for the Eastern Empire to possibly have magi tech, which even Chloe could not perceive, is dangerous. I don't doubt she was quite weak back then. She was likely around the disaster class range, I'm guessing, even if she was likely on the lower end. That kind of weapon might not be a threat to me or my direct subordinates, but an entire military armed with that would destroy the Western nation's military. I guess I'll finally be putting Sasha to use and see what magi tech she can whip up. They aren't afraid of the angels? Asked Rimuru. Chloe shrugged her shoulders. Who knows? I was always helping fight off the angels during the Tenma Wars in the past, so I'm not sure what the Eastern Empire was up to during those attacks. Rimuru nodded. Well, we will have to be careful in that case. Even if Felix and I are demon lords now, we don't know how strong the Eastern Empire is. I nodded. We do know they have a true dragon of their own, Velgrind the Scorched Dragon, so they have some serious firepower. Rimuru nodded. Right. I recall a battle between Velgrind and Veldora long ago. It took place on Leon's continent far before he even made a name for himself. That continent is the way it is now due to their battle, the volcanoes, the constant eruptions, all of that is the effect of Velgrind's lingering aura. Informed Luminous. Yeah, true dragons are fuck-off levels of strong. I mused. You both are right. When Rimuru died, there was a brief period of time when Veldora was rampaging without anyone there to counter him. During this time, someone from the Eastern Empire showed up and managed to stall Veldora enough so that Veldora wouldn't immediately start destroying the world. I didn't get much of a look at the battle itself since I was busy dealing with Ifrit, who was also released. Chloe chatted out. Dang, if they had someone that could fight Veldora, then we really gotta take them seriously. And it wasn't Velgrind? Chloe shook her head. No, the Scorched Dragon did not show up at that point. I could recognize her aura, at least. I nodded. I see. What happened after that? After that, Felix Nasorta went on a rampage too. Though a more controlled one, unlike Veldora's, you knew friend from foe, so you decimated the Eastern Empire's army and quickly underwent your harvest festival. You didn't even need to sleep, you instantly got your energy under control and went off to fight Veldora as he was causing damage to Tempest and killing a lot of civilians. Chloe said. I didn't even have to sleep, huh? How is that possible, Odin? The entire reason one goes to sleep when undergoing a harvest festival is to basically fight off the resentment of all the souls used for the harvest festival. It is likely that Odin had come up with countermeasures to skip this process. I see. Even in another timeline, Odin is overpowered. I wonder what skills I got in that harvest festival? I'm guessing it went similarly to my own in this timeline. My alternate likely ended up getting Ouroboros, and with Odin's help that allowed me to hold off Veldora. Though I doubt I got Planeswalker, I highly doubt my desires at that point in time were aligned enough for that, so perhaps that Ouroboros was slightly different than my own. Oh well, no point dwelling on it. It's not like I'll get an answer. But man, I seriously haven't gone to many other worlds since I returned from the Jujutsu Kaisen world, have I? Quite a lot has happened, Yuki and his bullshit, and now Krinoa. It's hard to find a good time to leave, even if I can return to the moment I leave. I don't like leaving things half-finished. After all this is over, I definitely need to go to another world to relax a bit. But before that, you summoned a demon. Continued Chloe. Oh? I guess this is when I first meet Arcuaid then. Chloe shook her head. You did not summon blank. You summoned Juan. I raised a brow. Huh, that's weird. You had said you wanted to bring despair to the Eastern Empire for what they had done, and so Juan answered your calls. She had said it sounded interesting. You gave her a vessel and the name Aponia. Informed Chloe. Aponia, huh? I muttered. What a fitting name. What does that mean, Felix? Asked Rimuru. You never read anything that took place in the DC multiverse? Rimuru shook his head. Right then, Aponia was the name of the personification of despair and hope from DC. I really went all out on the symbolism, huh? Aponia is a pretty cool name, good work alternate me. It was Chuni, but Chuni was good in this world. The DC multiverse? Asked Luminous. It's a fictional, or maybe not so fictional, multiverse that we had comics based on back in our old worlds. The power levels of those comics could get crazy real quick, From wall destroyers to the endless who could erase entire multiverses on a whim. Luminous's eyebrows shot up in surprise. I see. I suppose human creativity is as boundless as ever. I wouldn't be so sure about that. I muttered. If worlds I believe to be fictional actually existed, who's to say that the other worlds I've read about don't also exist? What was that? Asked Luminous. I shook my head. Nothing, it's not a topic to bring up now. Luminous nodded. After that, Felixna sent Aponia to cause mayhem in the Eastern Empire's forces as you dealt with Veldora. In total, Felixna, Veldora, and Aponia caused the deaths of approximately 1 million people. Chloe continued. My eyebrows shot up. 1 million? Even if I logically knew I could indeed kill that many people, that doesn't mean I'd ever do something like that. That's a fuck ton of people to be responsible for killing, but I guess my alternate wasn't in the best mental state at that time. Though I didn't kill 1 million people alone, I'm sure Veldora and that version of Mega Man got a lot of those kills themselves. You really fell off the deep end, didn't you, Felix? Rimuru remarked. I shrugged my shoulders. Don't ask me. I don't know what my alternate's thought process was. It's not like Veldora has a smaller kill count with all his rampages throughout history. Rimuru winced but nodded. Chloe, seeing that we were done, continued. While Felixna was dealing with Veldora, Luminous showed up with Hinata. They, along with the help of some of Felixna's and Rimuru's subordinates, began mitigating some of the damage from the fight between Veldora and Felix. It was during this that I saw a flash of light pierce through Hinata, killing her and sending me through time. Chloe finished. I see. That's all you have, Chloe? Asked Rimuru. Chloe shook her head. That's as far as my memories of Chloe go, but Cronoa has more. And then, in front of our eyes, Chloe's form shifted back into her mature womanly form. Are you Cronoa now? Asked Rimuru. Cronoa smiled charmingly. Yes. I'm Cronoa. Chloe is letting me use her body to tell this part of the story. I know a bit more than her since I hadn't gone back in time at that point. I was more of a spirit and wasn't bound to her. Rimuru nodded, and Cronoa took that as the cue to begin. After Hinata's death, things became even more chaotic. Shortly after Hinata died and Chloe was sent back in time, Demon Lord Milim Nava made her appearance. Said Cronoa. Milim? Rimuru exclaimed. I bet she was pretty pissed. This was after 5 years, so I'm sure she got quite the taste for Tempest's cuisine and probably became friends with you as well, Rimuru. She would have probably gone on a rampage since one of her friends was killed. Rimuru winced. Ugh, this other timeline is looking worse and worse the more I learn. I nodded. Yeah, it seems to be a certified bad end, or at least close enough to a bad end. A bad end? Asked Hinata, though I noticed Luminous was also looking at me curiously. These two need to become more enlightened. A bad end is a term that describes when someone finishes something but does not achieve the best possible outcome. It's primarily used in video games and generally describes the worst possible ending possible. I'm looking at you, Shiru. Both Hinata and Luminous nodded in understanding. Your world had the oddest terms. Commented Luminous. If it's one thing we have over this world, it's entertainment. We had plenty of that. Luminous nodded. Indeed, that picture book you gave to me, Naruto, was fairly intriguing. It was quite amusing to replicate some of the so-called ninjutsu they made use of. Rimuru, Cronoa, and I all looked at Luminous, aghast. Picture books? Rimuru yelled. Luminous tilted her head. Yes. What else would those be? They seem to be picture books meant for children. Well, I guess that's just another reason you and Veldora aren't compatible. I muttered. Ignoring Luminous' heretical words, I'll continue now. Said Cronoa. After Chloe was sent back in time, Milim made her appearance and made her anger known. She joined in against the fight with the Eastern Empire and began obliterating the various cities and towns in the Eastern Empire's territory. However, before long, she was interrupted. Demon Lord Guy Crimson showed up, and so the two had their rematch. Why would Guy fight Milim off? Rimuru asked while looking at me. Even Cronoa was looking at me. Why do you all think I'd know? Rimuru looked at me like I had said something dumb. You've been to his continent a few times and seem to get along. Even one of his maids likes you. Cronoa nodded. Indeed, even in the other timelines, you and Guy Crimson usually got along quite well. Huh, well, that's interesting to know. Well, I'm not exactly sure why Guy would interrupt Milim's rampage, but my best guess is that she was threatening the safety of the world. Guy has a vested interest in making sure the cardinal world isn't destroyed. Perhaps Milim lost herself to her rage? Stampede is pretty hard to fight off when you lose yourself too much. It's why I'm always very careful when I use Satanale higher than 40%. That does make sense. Milim Nava did not seem to be in the best state of mind. She had transformed into a combat mode of sorts. She had donned powerful armor and was preparing some kind of attack to wipe the Eastern Empire off the face of the map. Even the scorched dragon Velgrund was completely slapped to the side by Milim when she was in this state. Said Krinoa. I nodded. Yeah. Milim is crazy strong when she gets serious. At least that gives me a somewhat decent indicator of Velgrund's strength, which is a very, very vague indicator, but any information helps. I already asked Veldora, but he wasn't able to give me an accurate assessment due to his trauma clouding his perception of Velgrund. Remind me not to piss Milim off. I knew she was strong, but to be able to brush off a true dragon is still pretty crazy. Said Rimuru. Well, she is the daughter of God. What can you expect? Luminous nodded. Indeed, Milim Nava is a force almost no one can match when she truly lets go of her restraints. The fight between Guy and Milim 2,000 years ago was more than enough to tell the world how powerful those two were. Luminous said. Though I highly doubt that Milim's rampage would be enough to destroy the world. I quirked my eyebrow. Oh? And why is that? This is a world created by Veldonava himself, the very world he resided in. He had created quite a few artifacts meant to reinforce the structural integrity of the world. Without destroying those, it is impossible to destroy the planet. Informed Luminous. I nodded. Right, that makes sense. With all the destructive spells unleashed on the planet over the years, of course, there would be some built-in protections. Otherwise, Megaman alone could destroy the planet with her nuclear magic. Luminous' brow shot up in surprise. I was not aware she was that powerful. She muttered. I shrugged my shoulders. She's been training, and nuclear magic is the most destructive of all. Luminous nodded. Still, if Guy and Velzard managed to shift the axis of the cardinal world with their fight, even with these holy artifacts, then their fight must have been something to witness. I, of course, knew their battle was likely universe-shattering. For the world to be able to handle that much power and brush it off, with only a shifted axis to show for it. That's some defense this world has on its side. What are these artifacts that protect the world from destruction? It would probably help if we know about them so we can make sure they aren't destroyed. Asked Rimuru. The only two remaining are the Heaven Tower, which resides in Dagruel's territory, and the Divine Tree, which is currently housing the capital of Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarion. Luminous informed. The Divine Tree must be seriously big to be able to house the capital of Sarion. Rimuru muttered. Luminous nodded. Indeed, it is approximately large enough to house a small country. Destroying it will be very difficult. Not to mention that is not the sole countermeasure present to prevent the world's destruction. Oh? What else is there? I asked. Long ago, the world had created a being meant to act as its protector. Of course, this protector quickly began rampaging around, overwhelming the entire world with his sheer power before Veldonava split that being into 3 individuals, the 3 true giants. Said Luminous. My brow shot up in surprise. Dagruel is the counterforce? The counterforce? Luminous asked in confusion. The protector of the world, I mean, he's meant to defend it from any threats? Luminous nodded. He is one part of Ashura, the being the world created to defend itself. Though I doubt he would do much to fulfill his duties at this point, after being separated from his other parts, Dagruel was quite taken with Veldonava and decided to serve him. Huh, does the world have some intelligence then? I muttered. Luminous looked at me like an idiot. Of course it does. The world is often responsible for reinforcing the structural integrity of this reality. It quickly repairs any disruptions to the natural order. The fight between Guy and Milim would have been even more destructive if the world was not attempting to ward off the worst of it. Dang, we even have a Gaia. This world was just getting weirder and weirder. A counterforce and a Gaia. Even Rimuru seemed to be shocked. Are we secretly living in a light novel? I rolled my eyes. Probably not, but if we were, we'd probably have some dumbass long name like that one time I got reincarnated as a slime. For you. Maybe something like I'm a demon, so what? For me. I noticed Hinata taking a moment to take all that information in. Hey. Even when she's over 1,000 years old, she doesn't know everything, huh? I leaned back against my chair. Well, thanks for the info dump, Luminous. But if the destruction of the world isn't why Guy intervened, then he probably intervened due to the threat Milim's rampage posed to humanity. The entire planet would be contaminated by Milim's magicules, and 99% of humanity would be dead just from that. While everyone processed that, I reached out for a cookie. Man, Gunter can really make some good cookies. Hinata lightly slapped me on the side. Do not talk with your mouth full. Idiot. I rolled my eyes. Yeah. We all took a quick snack break before Krinoa continued. At some point, Dagruel and his forces attacked Ruberius, resulting in a holy war starting between the two kingdoms, one that brought further chaos and destruction to the world. Stated Krinoa. Luminous was glaring at nothing. Dagrul attacked. Why would he attack you, Luminous? Rimuru asked in confusion. She scoffed. Dagrul has always eyed my lands with greed and interest. Due to the fight between Guy and Milim, his land's fertility was lost, and natural resources became scarce. His people are now barely surviving as it is. Rimuru winced. I see. Maybe if we can help him out, then we can get rid of a potential enemy in advance? That's a good idea, Rimuru. A holy war between Ruberius and any other powerful kingdom will always mean death and destruction, mostly for the common humans. Hinata said with an approving smile. Rimuru nodded. Right. I can probably do that. I have Dagrul's 3 sons working under me, and I can easily transfer natural resources with some massive teleportation circles. I offered. Luminous nodded. That is a good idea. However, that may not be the only reason for his hostility. I had killed the true ancestor, Twilight Valentine. He and Dagrul were quite close, so that further increased Dagrul's hostility towards me. I sighed. Right, well, I'll still try anyway. All the shots you don't shoot miss. Luminous nodded carelessly as if she wasn't partially responsible for Dagrul's possible future hostility. Damn hag. Sometime after the Holy War began, you managed to beat Veldora Felix. You trapped him in a seal of some kind that isolated space and time from the rest of the world. Granoa informed. That sounds like isolate to me. After that, you left Veldora sealed and went off to stop Milim's rampage. At this point, Guy and Milim's fight had derailed, and the world was in shambles as various kingdoms were completely destroyed, both human and non-human. I guess without Peak Spirit Queen Ranmaris to help contain the fight, it spread. A lot. Huh, Velzer didn't show up to try and help or anything? I asked. Granoa shook her head. No, I had not seen the Frost Dragon once. I nodded. I see. That was something to consider. I would have thought Guy would have enlisted Velzer's help to help calm Milim down, and if not that then at least for her to maintain some barriers so the world her brother created wasn't in shambles. Something probably happened to her during this period of time then. One thing I don't get is why would Guy care if humans are harmed in his fights? Asked Rimuru. I don't think Guy was really keeping his reasons secret. It was more like no one bothered to ask, so I don't think he'd mind if I told Rimuru a little bit about his reasons. He was told to protect the races of this world from destroying themselves. Who could tell that man what to do? Rimuru asked in astonishment. The Star King could. I responded. The Star King? Ah. Veldonova? I nodded. Yeah, Veldonova himself assigned that duty to Guy, and he has been doing his duty for a long time now. Luminous nodded. Indeed, Felix is right. Guy was established as the mediator long ago. So Guy was fighting Milim to fulfill his duty to Veldonova. Now that we've established that, can we continue? Rimuru asked impatiently. It seems he was rather nervous about everything, which was understandable. Granoa nodded and continued with her story. I was also rampaging, killing, and destroying everything in my path. I was rampaging all over the Western nations and the Eastern Empire until eventually I was stopped. Just from that tidbit alone it was pretty easy to tell that Granoa was an entirely separate persona of Chloe, more of an alternate personality. However, with the look she was giving Rimuru, it seems there was some emotional bleed through. I raised a brow. Oh? Who could have stopped you? Even before those 2 heroes' eggs awakened, you were quite powerful. Not unbeatable levels of strength, but even Luminous would lose against her. Granoa had the energy of countless loops within her. It's safe to say she's had a long time to stack up her EP. Demon Lord Guy Crimson showed up and defeated me. Granoa said with no emotion in her voice. But I thought you said he was busy handling Milim? Asked Rimuru. Granoa nodded. He was. However, from what I am aware, Felix N left the main battlefield to handle Milim and try to calm her down. I hadn't seen Felix N again, but I had felt both his and Milim's aura clashing even from hundreds of kilometers away. I guess I wasn't able to calm Milim down easily, right? She rampaged for Gaia's death, so I guess it makes sense she would lose control of herself when another one of her friends dies. And I came to offer Guy help, and he just chucked Milim at me and left. Not cool at all, Guy. So Guy basically used me as a distraction for Milim so he could deal with you? Granoa nodded. That was the conclusion I had come to. Dickhead. I muttered under my breath. After that, my memory got hazy. The last thing I remember was my body being cradled by someone as a spell was being cast before I completely lost consciousness. Continued Granoa. That's odd. I muttered. Granoa nodded. I thought so as well. The next thing I remembered was appearing in the dwelling of the spirits and possessing Chloe. That was when you took the kids there, right Rimuru? Rimuru nodded. Yeah, I remember seeing Granoa appear. I see, Well, it's safe to assume that spell that Krinoa remembers being cast sent Krinoa to the past, though I wonder who cast it? Rimuru mumbled. I shrugged my shoulders. It doesn't really matter. That is another future. It's pointless to try and figure out the identity of this person at this point. Rimuru nodded. That's true. Oh well, it doesn't matter all that much what happened to me in that timeline. We just need to make sure that events don't repeat themselves. Rimuru said firmly. Right, as much fun as fighting the Eastern Empire would be, I don't really want to deal with all the after effects that would cause. Rimuru sighed. Of course, you would see that as fun. Hey, I love a good fight. I defended myself. Hinata hit me on the thigh. Stop taking things so lightly. I rolled my eyes. Would you stop hitting me? I couldn't actually feel anything from her hits due to physical attack nullification, but it was still annoying. Perhaps when you stop being foolish. Retorted Hinata. I rolled my eyes. Hinata was radiating a lot of brat energy. She needed a good spanking, just like Luminous. We have a few problems we need to deal with then. I mentioned. Chloe is here now, so we don't have to worry about rampaging Krinoa. I said while giving Krinoa a side eye. She simply looked at me sheepishly. Veldora is with us already, so we don't need to worry about him rampaging, and I can take care of myself. Then, we only need to worry about Dagrul and the invasion of the Eastern Empire. I'll try to take care of Dagrul myself. If you need my help with Dagrul, let me know, Felix, and I will be there. Said Luminous. I nodded. Right, I'll call you if I need you. However, I have a feeling it would probably be best if Luminous isn't involved. I will also take care of protecting the Western nations in case a war with the Eastern Empire truly begins. Said Luminous. Rimuru nodded. Great. I'll leave that to you then. The Western nations was basically Luminous' domain, and with her religion being so widely spread in the West, her influence could do just about anything within the bounds of the Western nations. Though there is something I am suspicious about. Muttered Luminous. Oh? And what is that? I asked. You said that Dagrul's children are under you, correct? She asked. I nodded. That's right. Then it would be quite odd for him to attack us during such a critical moment. From what I know about him, he truly bears some affection for his children. Said Luminous. I shrugged my shoulders. All of this took place in an alternate future. We can't really say anything for certain, we don't know his circumstances on that timeline. Luminous nodded. You are right, but it still struck me as odd. Well, I'll keep it in mind when I'm dealing with him then. Luminous nodded, a satisfied smile on her face since I had taken her warning to heart. We don't really need to worry about Guy since he only intervened when the world was threatened. I'll go talk to him if he is being bothersome. Everyone nodded. Was there any other useful information that Guy shared with you? Luminous asked. I tilted my head as something came to mind. He told me a bit about Ryudra's skill set. Ryudra should have Michael, Lord of Justice. Michael was once Veldon of his personal skill, but he traded it to Ryudra for one reason or another. Guy said it had abilities closely related to the concept of domination. Luminous looked thoughtful before nodding. I see. Rimuru sighed. That doesn't tell us much, but it's something, I guess. I shrugged my shoulders. I only know as much as Guy told me about Ryudra. It's not like I was personally around back then. Rimuru nodded. Right. If there's nothing else, we're finally done, right? Everyone nodded, causing Rimuru to smile. Finally, now that's all done, let's eat. Luminous smiled. Gunter, bring out the food. A moment later, a few maids entered the room, each pushing a cart filled with food. Gunter led them and began serving each of us a variety of dishes. Once the maids and Gunter left, Hinata asked me a question. So what was that ability of yours that let you fight Krinoa in another dimension? I noticed Chloe, who was back in control of her body, was now looking at me as well. I have a skill that lets me travel to other dimensions. Hinata's lips twitched. Of course you do. Whoa. That's a cool ability, Felix. You can get infinite otherworlders that way. Chloe exclaimed. I nodded. Yeah, I could. Perhaps I could somehow mimic what happened to otherworlders as they were brought to this world. While they traveled to this world, their bodies were basically rebuilt from the ground up to be far stronger than the norm, even in this world. They were bombarded by magicules, and so they were basically forcefully strengthened to the point that their bodies would break down if they kept all those magicules inside of them for too long. And then on top of it they also usually developed a unique skill. Otherworlders were powerful. There was a reason they were desired so much. I noticed Chloe had a calculating look behind her innocent facade. She was likely trying to think of a way to make use of my ability in the most useful way. After so many bad ends, I wouldn't be surprised if she thought about running away to another dimension should the worst happen in this world. That was a plan I was also going to leave as my backup, In case even with all the information we have, we still end up overwhelmed, we can always run to another dimension and recuperate. It seems Chloe had become a bit of a schemer over her long life. I'd at least hear her out whenever she decided to talk to me about it. I was fairly certain she was on our side, even with everything that had happened. Still, I couldn't help myself from rolling my eyes as I continued to eat. At the very least, at the end of this entire mess, I got to eat some good food. Leon Cromwell, Demon Lord Leon sighed as he finally finished making preparations for his departure. He was a very active monarch. He made sure everything was in order with his people and had to make sure everything was well defended in the case of an attack. His subordinates were very powerful, so he trusted them to deal with any threats that they could. And now he was going to go meet someone he truly wished he did not have to see for a few more decades. Dealing with the Divine Empress could be very tiring. He turned to Claude. I will be leaving now, Claude. Claude bowed. I wish you well travels, my liege. Leon nodded and then vanished in a flash of light, appearing in the Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarian's capital in an instant. He looked up, the divine tree's branches hung over him. Even though he had been here multiple times before, it was still quite something to see the divine tree. He was currently standing at the entrance to Elmgia's palace. One of the guards had spotted him and immediately went to call someone. Leon hoped it would not take too long. Lord Leon. He heard someone call out. He looked back towards the palace and nodded. Irald. Lady Elmgia is already waiting for you. I will guide you, said Irald. Leon nodded and began to follow Irald. Leon took in the sights as he made his way through the palace. It felt like just yesterday when he was here learning from Sylvia. He shook his head. Now was not the time to get lost in his memories. It didn't take long for Irald to guide him to Elmgia's personal lounge. Leon took a look around the room. Not much was different from the last time he had been here. Irald had already left, while Elmgia was sitting on a luxurious couch, her pale blue-silver hair cascading down behind her. Leo. Elmgia called out excitedly. He sighed. Do not call me that. Elmgia pouted. I see that you're still no fun, Leo. It's been so long since you visited me. Even Mother was complaining that you hadn't spoken to her in so long. He ignored her words and sat on the couch across from her. Two maids appeared, served them both tea and placed a plate of sweets on the table in front of them. Elmgia eagerly grabbed a cookie of some kind and began eating it happily. Ah, these are really good. You should try them, Leo. Another worlder is the one who made them. Apparently, the techniques from his world allowed him to make sweets that are on a completely different level. He humored Elmgia and took a cookie of his own. He raised an impressed brow. This is quite good, you are right. Hee. I knew I could win you over to the sweet side. Join me. We have cookies. Elmgia said with a grin. He did, in fact, join her. The sweets were quite delicious. Where did you acquire these? I may send someone to get me some of my own. Leon asked. Elmgia preened. I tried to get the baker to come here and set up shop, but no matter how much gold I waved in his face he wouldn't budge. Something about the environment of Tempest promoting more growth and competition. So Tempest is where you got these from? It seems I will have difficulty procuring more of these then. Leon muttered. Elmgia rolled her eyes. You wouldn't have this issue if you were more open. Everyone always misunderstands you because of how cold you act. It is fine. He looked down at the teacup in front of him, steam still trailing up from the cup. Elmgia was one of the few individuals he could consider a friend, and he was fine with that. He had known Elmgia since before he even became known as a hero, back when he was a simple kid training to reunite with his childhood friend. Now, he was stronger, and yet he still had not accomplished his goal. As he was brooding, the maids brought out a cake. Ooh. This one is really good. Try it, Leo. He obliged and took a slice of cake. They both sat in silence while enjoying the sweets. Once they were done, Leon sat up. Now, we might as well focus on the reason I am here. Elmgia quirked her eyebrow. I was waiting for when you would finally talk about why you're here. You never visit me. You only do it when you need something from me. Elmgia said with a pout. I am busy with my kingdom. Was the only reply he gave her. Elmgia rolled her eyes. Just throw your work to your subordinates. I am not like you, I wish to actually run my kingdom properly and make sure everything is going as it should. Suit yourself. Elmgia shrugged. Now what did you want? One of the people I dealt with has cut contact with me for the foreseeable future. Elmgia raised a brow. Was it one of those Cerberus people? Leon looked at Elmgia strangely. Don't look at me like that. Of course I know about them. That organization is quite well known in the Eastern Empire. Taking down Echidna alone got them some reputation. I had heard some of their higher-ups had been spotted in the Western nations over the years. Damrada of Gold, Misha of Love. Elmgia trailed off. Yes, it was them. You were using them to reunite with your childhood friend? Elmgia asked him, though she already knew the answer. Leon still nodded. Yes. She sighed. Of course, you would continue with that. Elmgia muttered to herself. Leon did not want to argue with Elmgia right now. They had many discussions about his release of a lesser version of the Otherworlder summoning ritual to the public, as well as his active support for summoning Otherworlder children. While he personally always asked permission before summoning children, the same could not be said for others who got their hands on the ritual. But Chloe was out there somewhere. He would summon her and protect her, no matter what he had to do. Elmgia eventually looked back to Leon. So? What did you need me for? I had nothing to do with them cutting contact with you. Elmgia declared while looking into his eyes as if daring him to argue. Leon shook his head. That is not why I am here. I already know the reason why they had done what they did. I see, then why are you meeting me? I would have thought you would have gone to deal with whatever is threatening you from failing in your goals. Elmgia said. The organization I was sourcing Otherworlders from had said the reason for their retreat was due to Tempest and Demon Lord Rimmeru's crusade against the Otherworlder summoning ritual. I cannot go to Tempest myself as Demon Lord Rimmeru seems to be quite hostile towards me, probably due to one of my previous subordinates getting something in his head. He spoke. Elmgia nodded. Right, I am aware, the Conqueror of Flames, was it? She is quite a famous champion. Leon looked at Elmgia curiously. I was not aware you knew of my relationship with Shizu. It was meant to be highly classified. Elmgia scoffed. As if you could keep something like that hidden from me, though I imagine things could have gone differently if you didn't act the way you do. You make having misunderstandings too easy. Leon scoffed. I do not care for more friends. I don't deserve any, either. I know what I've done. I know that I've sacrificed a shit ton of people for my goals, but as long as I can see her, it will all be worth it. You are one troubling boy, Leo. Elmgia sighed. Now you were talking about Rimmeru's attempts at barring the Otherworlder summoning ritual affecting you? Leon nodded. I see. That does sound like Rimmeru. He seems to have a good heart, not to mention he is quite close to some Otherworlder children himself. He likely did not want to see their situation repeated. Leon was fully alert as he heard Elmgia. Otherworlder children? Elmgia looked at him weirdly. You are making me quite suspicious about your true motives for these children, Leon. Anyone would misunderstand you for having other kinds of interests. He visibly cringed in disgust. Elmgia laughed seeing his state. I was just teasing. Yes, Rimmeru seems to have taught some Otherworlder children some time back. He saved them by having them contract elementals, balancing out the rampant magicules in their young bodies. Leon nodded. He did not like hearing about the tragic fates of Otherworlder children, partly due to knowing he was partially responsible for each and every one of their deaths. But he would bear that sin for Chloe. One of them even has the potential to become a true hero. Leon looked at Elmgia in interest. Is that so? Elmgia nodded smugly. It is so. I will even be taking Kenya in as a student soon enough. Rimmeru wanted to give him some time to adjust before sending him to me. Leon nodded. Kenya, he would keep that name in mind. I will have to send Demon Lord Rimmeru an invitation sometime soon. It is best to solve this misunderstanding. Elmgia nodded. That is wise. He is powerful. His friend Felix is also not to be underestimated. The usurper of black, huh? He voiced out. He had not thought much about Demon Lord Felix since their interests did not cross paths. He was thankful that he took John out of his hair however, even if he questioned the man's sanity for the very same thing. Felix was the one to defeat the Chaos Dragon with the Destroyer's help. Said Elmgia. Leon nodded. He assumed Milim likely did most of the heavy lifting. The Chaos Dragon was not a difficult foe for him to defeat if he did not have to worry about collateral damage, but he would still not take it lightly. Both have ultimate skills. Now, that caught his attention. Truly? He asked. Elmgia nodded. Both of them admitted it to me. I do not think they will mind me informing you of this either. That changed things. Ultimate skills were true game changers, any who had it he had to take very seriously. Do you know their nature? Elmgia shook her head. I may, but it is not wise to disclose this information to you. I owe Felix multiple favors and do not wish to betray his trust. Leon nodded, he did not hold it against her. Very well. Now, may I ask why you choose to ally with Tempest and Azeroth? Elmgia took a sip of her tea before nodding. Both kingdoms have very useful resources that I will be trading for. Tempest's food is quite delicious, and they have their hands in almost every single field, such as farming, crafting, blacksmithing, and various other fields. Having them as allies can only be helpful. It's not like I mind dealing with demon lords, and these two seem to be more agreeable than that harpy and that lion. Leon nodded in understanding. Not to mention the raw power both bring to the table. Not considering Felix and Rimuru, both possess very powerful subordinates. I am sure you are aware that Felix and Rimuru both have primordials under them. Leon's lips twitched. I was aware of Blink and John serving Felix thanks to Guy, but I did not know that Rimuru also had a primordial under him. Elmgia nodded as if she had expected his answer. Rimuru has Noir under his command and has named him. Felix also has Violet under his command. Leon took a deep breath. Then that is all the primordials accounted for. Elmgia nodded. It is, and even excluding the primordials their other subordinates are no slouches either. I will keep that in mind. Elmgia nodded with a satisfied smile. Good. Now, if only Rimuru would hurry up and send Kenya here, I would want to teach my cute student already. Elmgia whined. But he still held up about one of his friends going missing. Elmgia sighed. One of his friends went missing? Leon asked curiously. Elmgia nodded. Yeah, Felix told a quick white lie apparently, but the kid can tell that something was off, and so he's been a bit distracted, so Rimuru has been distracting him with fun stuff in Tempest, but hopefully, he will arrive soon. Which friend of his? Perhaps I can help. Leon always had a soft spot for otherworlder children. If he could make up for his sin in some small way, then he would. The girl's name is Chloe. All of a sudden, Leon froze. Chloe? Elmgia looked at him weirdly. He jumped and grabbed her by the shoulders. You said, Chloe? Describe her to me. Elmgia yanked his arms off her shoulders before sighing. Fine, I have a feeling where this is going anyway. She has black hair, blue eyes. Elmgia went on to describe the details she knew of while Leon just sat frozen. Could it be? Could he dare to hope? He had never told Elmgia of Chloe's name or features, he hadn't felt a need to after all, but perhaps he should have. Leon took a deep breath. Was she well? Elmgia shrugged her shoulders. I heard she was, but then something happened. I have not heard what exactly did happen. Leon clenched his fists. If something happened to Chloe due to Demon Lord Rimuru or Demon Lord Felix, there would be hell to pay. He got up and prepared to leave. As he was leaving the room he turned back to Elmgia. Thank you, Elmgia. Foo-fa-foo, if only you could always be so straightforward. Now, Shu, don't you have somewhere to be? Leon nodded. Soon he would see Chloe, soon his lifelong dream would be complete. Chapter 139, A Lewd Vampire. All of us finished the meal that Gunter had served us fairly quickly. I leaned back on my chair. Well, that was a fruitful discussion. Rimuru nodded. Yeah, thanks, Chloe and Granoa, we know a lot more now than we did before. I'll begin preparing for the Eastern Empire's invasion right when I get back to Tempest. Luminous nodded. That would be a wise decision, for both of you. Luminous said while eyeing me in particular. Yeah, don't worry, I'll take care of it. I'll have to send Suppia some reinforcements, just in case. I'll send some of the demons under my command over, and I'll also have either Arcuaid, Lalatina, or Megaman go recruit some more demons for me. I thought that 666 demons would be enough, but the Eastern Empire is a far larger threat than I originally thought, and I'd rather be overprepared than underprepared. But I'm probably getting ahead of myself. There was still one more issue. Make sure not to get too focused on the future, Rimuru. We still have Grandel's attack to deal with, though I doubt that will cause us any problems. Rimuru nodded while Hinata and Chloe, who had retaken control of her body, looked at us curiously. Who is Grandel? Asked Hinata. You may know Grandel better as Gran, Hinata. Informed Luminous. Hinata's eyes widened. Gran? The luminary of the sun? I nodded. The very same. Just what has happened while I was gone? I feel like I'm missing quite a lot. Asked Hinata. Ah, that's right, you would be missing a lot, huh? Well, I'll cut things short. Don't interrupt me. Ask your questions when you're done. The attack on Tempest, and your death was planned by Ecchi. Just that alone was enough to shock Hinata into stillness, but I continued. So I killed him, but it seems one of his underlings is a bit upset and wanted to attack Ruberius to attempt to gain control over Chloe. Grandla's helping them. That's a very, very simplified version. I have so many questions. Hinata voiced out. Chloe raised her hand. Me too. I sighed. Fine, ask your questions. Both Luminous and Rimuru were content to let me do all the work here. Fine then, I would have my revenge. Hinata asked her question first. You said Ecchi was responsible for the attack on Tempest and my death. How do you know this? I snapped my fingers, a dagger appeared in front of me, steadily floating. Hinata seems to have recognized it even with its change in form. That's... I nodded. Yeah, this is a weapon that Laplace, the clown that beat you, was using. It has a special property that allows it to negate a lot of things. The only other person I have ever met with the property is Ecchi, and the weapon is made of bones. Hinata nodded. I see, that would be enough to make anyone suspicious. I may even act on that alone. I nodded and stored the dagger back in my infinity space. Yeah, at that point, I was pretty sure it was Ecchi, but I also had some other sources that I used to confirm everything. I got Laplace to talk, and he admitted to everything. I am surprised he admitted to anything. Hinata voiced out. He seemed rather determined not to spread any information about him or his employer. He was powerful as well. I have my ways. Hinata rolled her eyes. Right, and so you killed Ecchi? I nodded, a vicious smile on my face. Duh, he was responsible for your death as well as many more crimes I won't go into detail about right now. Hinata blushed slightly. I see. For me, huh? I heard her whisper. Chloe was the one who asked her questions next. What about Granble's attacks? I have met him before. He seemed to be a fine young man who wanted the best for humanity, so why was he planning to attack Ruberius now? I looked at Chloe with a raised brow. Oh? You met him before? Chloe nodded. During the Tenma Wars, he was sometimes on the same battlefield as me in some timelines. Ah, that's right. You would have taken part in the Tenma War, huh? I looked at Hinata. Tell me about that later. I'm curious about those angels. Hinata nodded with a smile on her face. Sure. I looked back to Chloe. As for your question, I assume the Granble you knew from the past has changed. Luminous backed me up. He is right, Chloe. Granble has changed from the man he once was, his goals have shifted, and madness has begun to consume him. Ever since Maria's death, he has not been the same. Chloe sighed. I see. Maria was a lovely girl. But I guess not everyone can live forever. Hinata seemed to be deep in thought. I placed my hand on her shoulder. I know he was once your teacher. You don't need to help us defend against his attacks if you don't want to. Hinata gave me a small, exasperated smile. I appreciate the worry, Felix, but it is unnecessary. Granble and I were far from close. If Granble is attacking Luminous, then I will assist. Luminous smiled, hearing Hinata, and I nodded. If that's what you want. Are you still going to be serving Luminous? Hinata nodded. Yes, I do still believe in the same principles I originally did, I have simply grown a bit. Besides, I'm sure those subordinates of mine have been slacking. Foo-foo, quite a few of your subordinates bugged me about you. At least now you can deal with them. Laughed out Luminous. Hinata smiled. I have some new training regimens for them to do. After that, they won't have the time to bug you anymore. I winced, already feeling bad for those 10 great saints, though they should seriously change their title. Only one of them, other than Hinata, is a saint. Luminous gave Hinata a matching vicious grin. Those poor people. Well, now that we have discussed everything, I think I'm going to head back to Tempest. I don't want to stay away for too long, given the situation. Declared Rimuru. All of us nodded. Rimuru looked at Chloe. Did you want to come with me? Or did you want to catch up with Luminous? I'll come with you, Rimuru. Chloe declared with enthusiasm. I didn't miss how Luminous didn't really react to what Chloe had said. Weird, I thought Luminous was into Chloe? I would have thought that she would be disappointed that Chloe didn't seem interested in her whatsoever. My eyes narrowed as I thought back to everything. Luminous and I had grown closer since we first met. I still messed with her, but it wasn't from a place of maliciousness, that was just the nature of our friendship. Everyone had friendships that were slightly different. But I had also noticed the odd reactions Luminous had to some of my comments. If it was once or twice, I could brush it off, but it was more than that. I wasn't that dense. I just didn't want to push things without any sort of confirmation. Luminous was a very proud woman, plus our relationship was different from what I was used to. Still, I'm sure everything will work out. Sure, I'm sure the other kids will be happy to see you. Rimuru said with a smile. I think I will be coming with you, Rimuru. Hinata cut in. I wish to take a look at Tempest once again after so long, and perhaps I will relax a little bit. I did not have many opportunities to truly live when I was acting as Granoa, so I suppose I will indulge myself a bit. Hinata then looked at me. Perhaps we can catch up later after I have sorted myself out? I nodded. Yeah, I'm down. It would be a sin not to spend time with you when given the opportunity. Hinata rolled her eyes, though she couldn't hide the subtle smile on her face. Flirt. Hinata's reactions were far more normal when compared to what I was used to. She accepted my playful teasing and just enjoyed the banter. Though it wasn't like that at first, but I guess I grew on her or something. Though it was still pretty funny that even wishy-washy compliments were still effective on her. Before you leave, I would like to talk to Felix about something. It may take some time. Luminous interrupted. I looked at Luminous and then nodded. Sure, I wasn't planning on doing much else that can't wait. Luminous smiled. Good. I turned back to Hinata. Before you go, I wanted to tell you about something I did to your body. You might even be able to feel the change now. I interrupted, knowing full well how my words could be interpreted. Hinata blushed all of a sudden. One of her hands instinctively covered her chest while the other reached for her sword. As something you did to my body? Luminous was glaring at me. I gave her a smug grin before looking back at Hinata, whose blush only seemed to have deepened. Yeah, I modified it a bit. Your old constitution was so full of holy energy that magicules were just immediately purified upon contact, which has caused you some issues. I made it so that you could toggle that function on and off. With Brahma, such a thing was child's play for Odin to do. Luminous stopped glaring at me. Your words make it easy to misunderstand, Felix. I looked at her in confusion. My words? I asked, pretending to be clueless. Ah. No, I didn't mess with your body in that way, Hinata. Hinata nodded shyly. No matter how attractive it is. I added with a wink. Cough, that's enough flirting, Felix. Rimuru interrupted. I rolled my eyes. Fine, fine. If my flirtations were unwelcome, then Hinata would make me aware of it and I would stop. But since she hasn't, I'll keep going. Then, if you're all ready to go, I'll make a portal, said Rimuru. Hinata and Chloe nodded, and so Rimuru created a portal that led right to Tempest. I'll see you two later, said Rimuru. I nodded. Yeah, see you guys later. Hinata gave me one last look before leaving. Hinata Sakaguchi, she stepped through the portal with Rimuru and Chloe in tow. She took a deep breath as she took in the fresh air of Tempest. It's been a while since you've been here, huh? Rimuru said. She nodded. Indeed. They had appeared in the Chancellor's office. It was basically where Rimuru got all of his work done. Whoa. It's felt like ages since I've been back here, Chloe said excitedly. Hinata rolled her eyes good-naturedly. That's likely because it has been ages for you, Chloe. Chloe nodded. Oh. That's right. Rimuru sighed. You're as much of an airhead as always, Chloe. I'm glad to see that at least that hasn't changed, Rimuru said as he made for the door. Before opening it, he turned to her. Did you want me to have someone guide you around? I'm not sure if you remember where everything is. She shook her head. I am a spiritual life form, I remember quite well. Rimuru nodded. All right then. But just let me know if you need some support. Despite everything, you are my friend Hinata. A small smile formed on her lips. Thank you, Rimuru. I appreciate it. And she meant it. And then it was just Luminous, and I left. I did want to hurry up and help Odin evolve into a Manus, so hopefully, this wouldn't take too long. Hopefully, I didn't just jinx it. Wait, did I just jinx myself again? Thankfully, if math has taught me anything, it is that two negatives make a positive. Luminous rose from her seat. Come with me, please. I nodded and began following her. So what's up? I asked after quickly catching up to Luminous. Luminous gave me a bombastic side-eye. Be patient, Felix. Luminous sighed. Fine, keep your secrets then. Luminous ignored me and continued to lead me towards where the private quarters were. It didn't take us long to arrive in front of her room. Inviting me to your room already, Luminous? At least take me on a date first, I said dramatically. Luminous scoffed. I have already taken you on a date, she declared with certainty. Ah, you're talking about that time we went out after I told you about dealing with Ecchi? Hee, I thought you said it wasn't a date. Just an outing between friends? I teased. Luminous herself said that. Luminous smirked. Well, I am saying it was a date now. Ah, classic women's logic. I rolled my eyes. Sure. It's not like I would have done anything differently. I consider that a pretty good date in my books as is. Luminous nodded. Of course it was. I am the one who took you out. As prideful as ever. Luminous ignored my words. She waved her hands, causing the double doors to open in her room. As we walked inside, I took a look around the room. I hadn't been here before, I was just aware of its general location since Luminous had once given me a tour of her palace. Fancy room, huh? Well, I guess that's what I expected from you, I voiced out. My own room back in my territory was also pretty fancy, far fancier than anything I was used to previously. In the center of the room was a 4-poster bed, draped with luxurious canopies and fine linens. The headboard had quite a few intricate designs carved into it. None of this could have been cheap. There was a couch to the side of the room, no doubt for Luminous to laze on. She is seriously super slothful. There were various art pieces decorated around the room. Some of them were similar to the ones I had displayed in my own office, paintings of various beasts that almost seemed to come to life. Nice room. I complimented after looking around. Thank you. It was not easy gathering all of these luxurious items. Luminous said as she took a seat on her bed. Yeah, I bet. Luminous patted the spot beside her. Come, sit. I looked at her with a raised brow but complied nonetheless. I took a seat on the red silk sheets and waited for Luminous to begin talking about whatever it is she brought me here for. This was a very weird situation. Luminous just stared at me unblinkingly. She shook her head and looked at me with a determined expression on her face. Felix. I looked at her weirdly. Luminous? Listen carefully to what I am about to say. I didn't think I would find myself saying this so soon. But our conversation with Chloe and Hinata has reminded me of something. The future is uncertain, and at any moment, a war we might not be able to turn back from might start. If that time comes, I will only be able to hold myself accountable for not speaking up. Luminous began, her determined expression turning more serious as she looked at me. I believe I hold a certain affection for you in my heart. So I have decided that from this moment on, you will be mine. Luminous declared with a confident expression. Huh? It was the only sound I could make. What the fuck? No, seriously, how did Luminous Valentine, of all people, fall for me? I know I'm charming, handsome, powerful, and all around amazing, but still. I had been suspecting it since I saw the signs, but hearing it from her mouth was something else. When did this happen? It likely began after Hinata Sakaguchi was sent back in time. The Master's support caused Luminous to develop a slight fondness for the Master. So I won some affection points by being a decent person. Neat. But then how the hell does a slight fondness transform into whatever this is? Inconclusive. Not enough data. Oh well, it was worth a shot. Well then? Luminous asked impatiently. I snapped out of my internal monologue. You like me? I asked, the words feeling foreign on my tongue when speaking to Luminous. Luminous crossed her arms under her bust. I did just say that, did I not? You did, it just feels surprising. I did not expect that from you, is all I'm trying to say. Luminous was a total babe, there was no other way to say it, but I just never looked at her as a potential sexual and romantic partner because I thought she batted for the other team for the longest time. Not to mention I didn't lust after every attractive woman in my vicinity, I was far more classy than that. I was the kind of person to just let things naturally develop, and if they happened then they happened. I respected her desires on that front and was completely okay with just being close friends. Teasing Luminous was an enjoyable way to pass time, after all. I didn't think you were interested in the opposite gender. I found myself saying. At this point, I just wanted to understand how this happened. Luminous nodded. I have been primarily interested in the feminine form, but it seems you somehow managed to break through that barrier. That was a critical attack. I nodded calmly, hoping to cover up my embarrassment. Well, I am handsome. But going by the smirk on her face, I think I failed in my endeavor. How adorable. Luminous teased. I turned away. Yeah, laugh it up. Now, what is your answer, Felix? Luminous asked with a hint of nervousness in her tone. I feel like this is probably going to take some time, and I wanted to hurry up and name Odin already. But it is what it is. Luminous came out and admitted her feelings. The very least I could do is answer with the same seriousness even if I wasn't quite sure what that answer would be. Notice. It is suggested for the Master to accept Luminous Valentine's confession. It will bring the Master a permanent ally that can be counted on, as well as expand the Master's resources. Luminous Valentine controls the entirety of the Western nations through her religion. I'll take that into mind. I wasn't going to base my answer based off of what I could get from Luminous. That was scummy and Luminous didn't deserve that, but it's still nice to have Odin's input. But I did still want to answer Luminous honestly, she deserved at least that much from me. I won't sugarcoat this. I do hold some affection for you, but it's platonic. I really never saw you in that way. Luminous' expression fell upon hearing me, but I hurriedly continued. I never really considered you an option due to your obvious affection for Hinata, and I didn't want to get in between that. I respect you enough for that, at least. I'm not saying that something like that is impossible between us, but it may take some time while we get to know each other. Luminous was definitely attractive in my eyes, but I sort of just filtered that part of her out since I never saw us working out, though it seems that was due to some incorrect info on my part. Luminous' expression eased hearing the latter part of my statement. Very well then, you care for me platonically and not romantically? You do not see me in a sexual light? Well, that can be changed quite easily. Of course, I would like to discuss this further with you, but that can come later. Luminous said with a seductive smirk. Oh. But I really don't want to delay Odin's evolution anymore. At this point, she deserves it. It is recommended for the Master to procreate with the high-blood Luminous Valentine to permanently bind her closer to the Master's side. Huh. Well, if Odin doesn't mind. Luminous snapped her fingers, removing her standard goth outfit, and leaving her in just her black lingerie. My eyes widened as I took in Luminous' practically nude form. Sensing my interested gaze, Luminous smirked at me victoriously. She sprawled out on her bed and spread her legs, allowing me to make out her labia through the very visible camel toe that Luminous was sporting. Well? What do you think? Luminous purred. I think that I've made a mistake not pursuing you before. I responded, a growing smile on my face. Foo-foo, then why don't you come and enjoy me? Luminous practically moaned out. I stopped holding myself back and practically dove into the feast before me. Notice. Using Brahma, Lord of Creation, to fabricate a skill to assist the master in his endeavors. The intrinsic skill, Lover, has been acquired. Well, shit, now this is going to make things a lot more fun. Odin is truly the ultimate wing woman. I was definitely going to enjoy toying with Luminous with Lover. Lover was a skill that was derived from Luminous' own Asmodeus, except it wasn't combat-focused. I'll do that in a moment. I voiced out. Luminous was not a complete degenerate masochist like Lalitina was. She wanted some romance, not just brutal domination. I approached Luminous, my right thigh finding its way in between Luminous's legs. Luminous hissed in pleasure as I rubbed my thigh onto her groin. I was practically on top of her now. My face approached Luminous's own, causing her eyes to widen before she began leaning towards me. Our lips met in a tender kiss. MMM. Luminous moaned into my mouth as she began grinding herself onto my thigh, our chests pressing together. My mouth opened, and my tongue prodded Luminous' lips for access. She immediately acquiesced, allowing me access without protest. Our tongues wrestled for a few moments before I bullied her into submission. My hands reached towards Luminous's modest chest. I grasped her breasts over her bra as I pulled back slightly. You have some seriously nice tits. I complimented, her nipples as hard as diamond and could be felt through her brassiere. Luminous turned away slightly. Humphrey. I'm sure you are simply flattering me. I could sense some jealousy in her tone. No need for any of that, Luminous, you are beautiful. She looked at me, a hint of vulnerability in her beautiful eyes as she dove for my lips, her tongue exploring every inch of my mouth, my teeth, gums before entwining with my own tongue as Luminous greedily drank down my saliva. After an unknown amount of time I pulled back from Luminous's lips, her face unconsciously leaning towards me before she got a hold of herself. I licked my lips. Now I think I'll be enjoying the feast before me. Before Luminous could react I dove straight in between her legs. Never let it be said that Felix White is not a generous lover. I lightly blew on the deep camel toe that was visible, causing Luminous to shiver slightly. Luminous further spread her legs to accommodate me more easily, her pussy was stopping at this point. My right hand trailed up Luminous' thick thighs. What is that, Felish? I smirked. The first sub-skill of Lover, Ecstasy Touch, allows me to induce extreme pleasure or pain in the target by using lust energy. This can affect the very soul and spirit of someone if I wish for it to. It can be applied through touch, or mere sight alone. I am capable of using it to even cause mind-breaking effects. I could even use it to instantly make someone reach their peak with just a look. I could already do something similar with the data from Lust, but this is a more optimized and streamlined version of that. It's also a lot more controllable, so I won't accidentally go too hard like I did on Lalitina when we first met. That incident likely forever warped her. My hand continued to trail up her thighs much to Luminous' audible delight until it eventually reached its destination. Felix. I'm serious. I ignored her words and used my fingers to shift her panties to the side, allowing me to finally see Luminous' hairless cunt. I extended my tongue and gave her pussy lips a long slow lick, from the base all the way up to her clit. Oh yes. Luminous hissed out as her hips shot up eagerly. I gripped the cool flesh of her thighs and dove in, my tongue explored every crevice of her pussy. Oh. Luminous sighed out in pleasure. I smirked into her cunt and began using Lover to up her sensitivity to unseen heights. What? Thish again? The pleasure my skill brought was far too much. Luminous immediately reached an explosive climax. Love energy? Luminous questioned with a moan as I took in her juices. It didn't surprise me that she could feel what I was doing to her, her old unique skill, Lust, and her new ultimate skill, Asmodeus, Lord of Lust, made use of love energy. My tongue trailed upwards towards Luminous' clit and latched onto it. Yesh. Luminous moaned in pure need. Unfortunately for her, I was feeling slightly mean. I made use of the next sub-skill of Lover, Visparalock. It allows me to temporarily or permanently prevent a target from experiencing orgasm, causing psychological distress. What? Luminous groaned in confusion. No more coming without my permission, Luminous, I purred out. I looked up into Luminous's beautiful heterochromatic eyes. In them I could see lust, need, desire, and love in them. Understand? I questioned with authority in my tone. A look of pure desperation and lust appeared on Luminous's face. She would have orgasmed from my tone alone if it wasn't for despair lock. Thanks to the next sub-skill of lover, heart's desire, I could instantly understand the deepest sexual desires and sexual weaknesses of a target. In Luminous's case, she wanted to be absolutely domed, no matter whatever haughty act she put up in public. She craved to let all of her walls down and let someone take control. She wanted to let go of her worries and just let someone else take care of her for a change. Luminous's eyes dilated. Yes. I felt a jolt of pleasure go down my spine at her words. I knew myself well enough to know that I liked being the dominant one in my sexual encounters. I didn't mind taking a back seat, but I knew what I enjoyed. Good girl. I purred out as I dove back into her sopping quim, my tongue slowly circling around Luminous's clit, much to her vocal pleasure. Yesh Felix. There. Luminous squealed out as I amped up her sensitivity even further. At this point, light breath on Luminous's clit would be enough to send her into a spiral of climaxes, but I knew Luminous could handle this amount of pleasure. I knew her limits. I continued to lick Luminous's tight slit as she sang her praises. Haha, Show good Felix. I went back to Luminous's clit, circling it before latching onto it and sucking. Please Felix. Let me come. Since you've been such a good girl, I guess I should reward you. I voiced out. Luminous heard me and began jerking her hips towards me, eager to have me deeper inside of her. I released despair lock, instantly taking Luminous to unseen heights. Oh. NNNGHH. Ha. Ha NNNGH. Luminous's body was racked in tremors above me, her hips still lightly jerking in my direction. I gave Luminous's pussy a light kiss before pulling back slightly and looking up at Luminous with a smug smirk. She was simply staring at me with dull, vacant eyes as she took a moment to come back to reality. It didn't take long for Luminous to come back to the real world. I wasn't the only one who could manipulate lust energy. I could sense Luminous making use of the lust energy within her to refresh her mind. Wow. My smug smirk only widened at her words. She noticed my smirk and scoffed. Don't get too cocky, your performance was adequate. Oh? Just adequate? I teased. I was still in between her legs, and before Luminous could react I lightly flicked her clit. Luminous came undone all over again. Manipulating your partner's pleasure was seriously way too much fun. Luminous could of course contest against my control over her body since she was one of the few capable of manipulating lust energy at the ultimate level, and yet she did not resist whatsoever, not that I expected her to. With her desires an open book for me, she was all but putty in my hands. Fine, you were slightly more than adequate. I rolled my eyes at Luminous's sunderness. I thought she had grown out of that. Whatever you say. Giving Luminous's now soaked pussy one last look, I got up and snapped my fingers, removing my clothing except my aunties. Luminous licked her lips as she eyed up my chiseled ABS before looking downwards towards my groin, eyeing the visible tent. Now it's your turn to return the favor. I practically demanded. Luminous's blush deepened at my demanding tone. You would have one such as I serve you degrade myself in such a way? Luminous asked, a slight hint of need bleeding its way through. I snorted. By the end of this you'll be the one wanting to do the serving. Luminous shivered. Very well then. Luminous began sliding off the bed. As she was moving to stand up I gave her thigh a light touch, making her feel as if I had just played with her clit. Luminous's legs shivered as she almost collapsed. She made her displeasure known as she glared at me with a pout. I took a seat on the bed and spread my thighs. Luminous stood before me with a confident smile on her face. I shall make you see stars. I would take that a lot more seriously if your legs weren't shivering from the after effects of your orgasm. Luminous could have completely restored her body to how it was before, but she willingly chose not to. What a slutty vampire. Luminous ignored my remark as she squatted down before me lewdly, her legs spread wide allowing me to get a perfect view of her practically gaping pussy and tight rosebud. Luminous's face began approaching the tent in my underwear as she took a deep breath, her eyes going slightly cross as she began to pant, her earlier fake resistance all but melting into sheer depraved lust and love. The next sub-skill of lover was sexual ideal, which allows me to basically change any part of myself to appeal more to my partner. I likely was never going to shapeshift penis or anything like that, but I was still able to satisfy a variety of kinks with this ability. One of the most basic uses of it was changing the scent I give off. Right now Luminous was basically breathing in an aphrodisiac-like scent that was causing her to slowly lose herself in her lust. Luminous began rubbing her face against my sheathed cock in a similar fashion to a pet. She was basically fuck drunk. Luminous's tongue slipped out as she began licking my shaft through the cloth. I could feel my dick twitch at Luminous's menstruations. I wanted nothing more than to just shove my cock into her gaping mouth, but I held back. As Luminous continued to sloppily lick at my underwear, her two hands reached the waistband of my underwear and began to slowly pull them down. Once they were lowered enough, my cock slapped out and smacked Luminous right in the face. A classic cock slap. Nah. Luminous moaned out. Luminous let out a breathy sigh. Too hot. I could feel her hot breaths directly on my shaft now. Without a layer of cloth in between us, I was feeling things far more than previously. Luminous's cute little pink tongue slowly extended and began to almost reverently lightly lick on the side of my cock. Luminous moaned at the taste, since I of course adjusted the taste of my manhood as well. From the desires I was able to sense from her, Luminous liked a musky and deep taste, and so I only intensified my natural odor and taste. I groaned out at Luminous's continued menstruations. Just like that. Luminous only got more enthusiastic after my words of encouragement. Her tongue gave my cock a tongue bath, covering it in copious amounts of her saliva. Once Luminous began licking the base, she pressed her nose right up against my cock and took a deep breath. Luminous's legs shivered under her as she almost collapsed. She peppered the base with kisses and licks as she practically rubbed every inch of her face up against my shaft, some of my pre dripping onto her face. Luminous's tongue immediately snapped towards some of the pre-cum it could reach, swallowing it down instantly. MMM. She moaned out at the taste before licking my cock from the base to the tip. She pursed her lips. Chew. She gave my tip a kiss before spreading her maw wide open, enveloping the tip of my cock in her warm mouth. She began to push herself lower and lower, slowly deep-throating my penis. So good. I groaned out. Luminous's heterochromatic eyes looked up at me in rapturous delight as she gobbled down my cock like a deep-throat queen. My hand reached downwards towards Luminous's head. She looked up at me with hesitation, as if warring with her pride before she gave in. She had already thrown her pride away long ago when she gobbled up my cock. I began stroking her hair as if she was a particularly needy pet. Her kink was not pet play, but that didn't mean she didn't enjoy the degrading act. Luminous was a connoisseur of all sorts of kinks. She was the wielder of Asmodeus for a reason. She was a lustful vampire. I noticed one of Luminous' hands trailing down her thigh as she began to play with her dripping pussy, causing her to moan into my cock, intensifying my own pleasure. I smirked as an idea came to my head. I used Lover to make it so that Luminous' tongue was practically a second clit. Luminous' eyes immediately widened as she felt the change. She shrieked into my cock as she explosively came all over her fingers, dirtying the floor beneath her. Luminous stared up at me, a dazed look on her face. Well, if you aren't going to do your job, then I might as well take things into my own hands. I voiced out. Luminous didn't react, and so I gripped her head more firmly and began to use her mouth as a tool for my own pleasure. I of course reduced the sensitivity of her tongue. It wasn't quite back to normal as she was still feeling a significant amount of pleasure from tonguing my cock, partially from her own degenerate kinks involving serving me, and then partially due to my own manipulations. Either way, Luminous began moaning into my cock once more as her head went up and down, her neck bulging to accommodate my length. It didn't take long for her to get the message as her tongue began eagerly rubbing the underside of my shaft, her orgasmic throat vibrating from blissful screams. I was pounding her face hard enough that the sound of my balls smacking against her echoed throughout the room. Glack. 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 After a few minutes I could feel my own orgasm approaching and did nothing to hold it back. Luminous sensed the same as her hands latched onto the back of my hips, the eager semen demon that she is. After a moment I released a copious amount of cum straight down Luminous's throat, much to Luminous's delight. Her eyes went rolled up and my cock vibrated due to her needy moans. Luminous let go of my hips as she pulled back until her mouth was only engulfing my tip. My semen continued to be devoured, but this time Luminous was actively tasting it. As my seed pumped down to her stomach, she began to spasm as she reached an orgasm of her own, the taste and scent of my semen being too much for her. Once my orgasm died down, Luminous released my tip, her eyes gazing up at me with lustful desire, need, and perhaps most of all, love. I paused for a moment as I took in the emotions Luminous was exhibiting. I knew I'd have to treat her right. I wasn't one to abuse the love and trust others had for me. Of course that doesn't count sex. With sex all bets are off. Though in Luminous's case she wants me to abuse her during sex. Luminous licked her lips, her eyes looking back down at my cock eagerly, almost as if she wanted to go in for another blowjob session. You can suck me off some more, you slutty vampire. Now let's get into the main dish. Luminous pouted. I am no slut. I didn't mean slut as in a loose woman. I meant it as if you are a depraved individual, but you're my slut. Luminous's cheeks glowed even more crimson as she coughed lightly. Very well then. Now come, worship me. Luminous declared, need plain in her tone. Worship you, huh? Maybe if that's what you actually wanted I'd do that, but no, we both know you are lying to yourself. Luminous froze at my words. I mean, look at what you just did. You basically gobbled up my cock like a cock goblin and practically inhaled my cum. You might as well throw away your pride, at least when we're alone. Luminous's mouth opened, but before she could respond I leaned forwards and picked her up by her armpits and threw her onto the bed. I'm not going to ask for permission, I am going to fuck you and you are going to like it, like the horny girl you are. Luminous looked at me dazedly, going by the desire and arousal I sensed coming off of her. If we were in a hentai she'd have literal hearts in her eyes at this point. Lover is a cheat when it comes to sex. I wouldn't be acting anywhere near this forceful with a seemingly reluctant individual, but I knew what Luminous wanted thanks to Lover. She was simply putting up a front, her pride and desire fighting each other for domination over her being. I tore her brassiere off of her, allowing me to see her naked breasts for the first time. They weren't the biggest I'd seen, but they were perky and topped with pretty pink nipples that were hard as a rock. My right hand trailed towards one of her breasts and gave it a light squeeze. Of course I enhanced Luminous' pleasure, causing her to squeal. Are you going to start or not? Luminous whined. I smacked her tit. N. She moaned out. Be patient. I want to have some fun with your body a bit. It would be a shame to not explore this divine body of yours when I have the chance. Something in my words made Luminous happy as she spread her arms and legs out, sprawling back on the bed. I pinched one of her nipples between my fingers, pulling it back lightly much to Luminous' delight. I looked down slightly, I reached over to her panties and tore those off completely as well much to Luminous' hidden delight. I noticed that she was leaking her love juices all over the bed. I guess I've made you wait long enough now, it's time I enjoy you fully. Luminous' eyes sparkled with excitement. I lined up my cock with her puffy folds, she moaned out at the mere contact of our genitals. Please. She begged. I made her wait no more as I thrusted into her warm depths. Oh. I groaned out. I began slowly thrusting in and out while making use of Lover to enhance Luminous' own pleasure, tweaking her sensitivity and easily locating her G-spot. My hands moved to her waist to grip her firmly as I picked up the pace. Luminous' eyes were rolled up to the back of her head. Yes. More. She demanded. Her inner walls were clenching on my invading shaft, practically massaging me as she attempted to coax out another load of sperm from me. I leaned forwards and captured her lips in a kiss, instantly beating her tongue into submission, turning it into mine to play with. I swallowed up her rapturous moans as I toyed with her mouth. I could feel Luminous's cunt clench on my cock as it spasmed wildly in frequent orgasms, her love juice drenching my thighs completely. Her legs wrapped around my waist as Luminous attempted to pull me deeper inside of her. I wasn't completely bottomed out yet, but Luminous's actions caused my cock to ram against her womb. Normally something like that would be agonizing for a normal woman, but Luminous was no normal woman. Something like this wouldn't cause her anything but pleasure. Out of the corner of my eyes I could see an indent of my cock on Luminous' belly. I'd be lying if that didn't turn me on further. I eventually pulled back from the kiss. Luminous looked up at me with hazy eyes. She leaned forwards and gently kissed my neck, peppering it and my face with gentle, almost loving kisses as I continued to batter against her womb. N. She moaned against my neck. It didn't take me long to feel my own orgasm coming. Where? Luminous' face snapped to me. Inshed. She chanted. I grunted as I fully bottomed out, my tip against the entrance to her womb as I released inside of her. Luminous clenched against me in rapturous orgasm as she squealed. Yes. Luminous' legs fell off of my waist as she continued to cum her brains out. I looked down at her face. Her hair was a mess, there were tears trailing down her face, her eyes were rolled up, some saliva was dribbling out of the corner of her mouth. She was a mess, and yet in that moment she looked beautiful to me. Beautiful. Luminous immediately came to awareness. It wasn't like something like sex could wear someone like Luminous out unless I really pulled out all the stops. All of the reactions I was getting from her were reactions she allowed. She allowed herself to submit to the mind-breaking pleasure and simply lose herself in the moment. Still, Luminous was now smiling ear to ear. Hee. She giggled out, still slightly delirious. Once I was done releasing inside of her I began pulling out. Woo. Luminous whined out childishly. I rolled my eyes. Relax, we aren't done just yet. Luminous's eyes lit up. I knew you couldn't get enough of me. I snorted. Damn right, you are one hot woman, I'm going to enjoy you until I literally can't anymore. Luminous smirked. Then let me see what you are capable of. I rolled my eyes. Of course she would still act cocky and prideful, even after the show she just put on. All of a sudden her eyes widened. What is this? She asked with a needy moan. I smirked as another sub-skill of Lover began taking effect. That would be the effects of one of my skills. My essence inside you was imbued with magicules, something you weren't able to sense in your delirious state. These magicules will breed with your own, forcefully expanding your magicule capacity. It's basically a free power-up. Luminous eyes widened before a fond and loving smile appeared on her face. Even now you are looking out for me? I do not need your constant protection, Felix. I never said you did, but it can never hurt, right? Just accept it as my own selfish request if you have to. Luminous rolled her eyes. Yes, Felix, I am not going to deny a free power-up as you call it. I nodded in satisfaction. Good. The stronger you are, the safer you are. We can talk more about this later. Now aren't we going to do something? Luminous teased. Fine. Bend over. I could feel Luminous's desire to be fucked in doggy style. She was a kinky vampire after all. Luminous' smirk widened, but she still complied. She bent over, giving me a clear view of her still leaking pussy and quivering asshole. Luminous shook her ass from side to side, almost taunting me. Some of my cum was beginning to leak out of her hole, so I spoke up. Well, I better plug that leak. I immediately thrust back into her quivering core. NNNN. I palmed her ass cheeks, groping her as I thrusted in and out of her, targeting her G-spot and turning her back into a quivering mess. Oh yes. She practically melted into a puddle. I smirked as I felt a certain desire appear in the forefront of her mind. I pulled one of my hands back and spanked her. She froze for a moment before the dam broke. What? Nah. She came explosively over my cock. In fact, this was her biggest orgasm yet. She even squirted a little. Hey, who knew Luminous of all people would be into spanking? I leaned forwards, pressing my chest against her back as I groped her tits while continuing to thrust into her. One of my hands trailed upwards. Hey, Luminous' mouth was wide open and her tongue was lolling out. Two of my fingers slipped in her mouth. Her tongue immediately came to attention and began sucking on my fingers lewdly. It was always nice to have sex with a kinky woman. Chapter 140, Mon. As I closed my eyes as I rested against Luminous's bed. I sighed as I thought through the last day or so. A lot more than I expected happened, the most unexpected being Luminous' whole confession. I still wasn't sure if anything between us would be long-lasting, but even if it wasn't, that was fine. As long as everyone involved enjoyed their time, then I didn't see any problems with that. I think Luminous shared a similar opinion on that front. I obviously wouldn't self-sabotage myself though. We had gone through a variety of positions. Luminous did want to be on top at some point, after all, and watching her ride me was a treat in itself. Her breasts shaking up and down, the intense look in her eyes, all of it made for the perfect time. I looked down. A bed of silver hair was sprawled against my chest, a pair of red and blue heterochromatic eyes staring up at me. You finally up? Luminous nodded as she made no move to change her position. Yes, I am. That was wonderful. I nodded. Yeah. I finally got to spank you for being a brat. Just like I promised. Luminous scoffed but didn't say anything. We simply enjoyed each other's company in silence. After some time, Luminous broke the silence. Felix. It is about time we talk about our relationship. Luminous said. I nodded. My relationship with Luminous would no doubt be different from my other relationships simply due to our status. With the others on paper, they were my subordinates, they wouldn't really argue against me, which was annoying, but it is what it is. I was getting them to open up a bit more, but it was a work in progress. This world basically ingrained it into imagine that you served your superior with wholehearted loyalty as long as they did not betray you. There were outliers of course, but generally when someone names you, you are theirs in mind, body, and soul. With Luminous, however, we were both fellow demon lords. Even if I was stronger than her, I wasn't going to base our entire relationship on that. It sounded lame and unfun. Luminous made no move to stop lying on my chest, and I didn't bother moving either. This conversation can be held in our comfortable positions. I am not one of your subordinates, and I expect to not be treated as such. I nodded. Except perhaps in the bedroom from time to time. Luminous added with a smirk. I laughed at that. Sure, I am aware that it will take some time for us to get more used to each other in a romantic light. We kind of jumped into bed, and now we have to figure everything else out. Luminous nodded. I do not care for the harem you have built for yourself. Far lesser men have done the same, though. Do you mind if I partake in some of your consorts when we are enjoying each other's company? My mind froze for a moment as I imagined Luminous making out with Arcuade, or Lalatina, or Raiden, or Siko. Only when I was in between, though. I was a jealous man. That was hot. I imagine she meant sex when she said enjoying each other's company, so a threesome, huh? I've never actually had a threesome, as odd as it was, and it was definitely something I wanted to cross off my bucket list. What guy didn't want to have a threesome? Yeah, That would be hot. I voiced out. Luminous let out a fanged smile. Ah, I see. I should have expected as much. You are a lecturer of the highest order. I rolled my eyes. You're one to talk. We both know what sort of degenerate fantasies go on in your head. Along with that, I do not wish for you to baby me. As much as it galls me, I am aware you are more powerful than I am, especially after whatever it is you did, but I am aware that I am a prideful woman. I will not allow my pride to kill me, but I refuse to be reduced to a porcelain vase. She continued. I nodded. I didn't intend to baby you. That would take away what made you. You. I like you as you are, pride and all. You like me as I am. She teased. I rolled my eyes. Shove it. Fine fine. Luminous agreed, though going by her smirk I knew she would bring it back up again. Now, I wish to talk about Hinata. I looked at her curiously. What about Hinata? Luminous looked at me with an odd expression on her face. You do not know? I tilted my head. Know what? I was aware that Hinata was a bit fond of me, but I'd let that route take its course. There was no need for either I or Luminous to push things along. Hinata was a big girl, if she wanted something she'd get it herself. Luminous giggled. Ah, how cute. It is hard to remember, but you really are quite young, aren't you? She shook her head. Never mind, she will bring it up on her own. I nodded. Sure. I didn't know what sort of delusions were going on in Luminous' head, but I didn't care to correct them. Now that we had established our boundaries, we went back to cuddling for a bit. I put on my coat and waved Luminous goodbye. Feel free to stop by if you want. I called out. Luminous nodded. Very well, goodbye, Felix. We were both fully dressed now. Before leaving we had a quickie, because who wouldn't when a woman like Luminous was willing? Now Luminous had some more preparations to make to deal with Grandland Company. She had said she wanted to come with me to talk to Chloe and Hinata some more, but she did care for her people and would do her best to keep them safe. I'm sure Chloe and Hinata will be back here soon, Hinata because I doubt she'd abandon Ruberius, and Chloe because I'm pretty sure she and Luminous were friends. Luminous got a little bit more powerful energy-wise, her EP had gone up. It wasn't a significant amount, but it wasn't insignificant either. However, it would eventually add up. The farther apart the gap in the strength of my partner and I, the larger the gain they would get with essence exchange. It was literally dual cultivation that functioned based on similar principles as the old version of Magicule breeder reactor that I had. The Magicules I release inside of Luminous breed with her own Magicules, creating even more Magicules, which forcibly expands her Magicule capacity. Something like this is dangerous if done too suddenly, but it is safe to do little by little. See ya. And with that, I teleported to Tempest. There were a few things I wanted to do. I appeared in my residence in Tempest. I looked out the window. It was evening now. Rimuru, Hinata, and Chloe left around noon, so Luminous and I took a couple of hours. Not bad when we could have easily taken a lot longer, but we both had things to do. Actually, I had an idea. I felt that it was possible to accomplish my idea with my newfound control over time, but I wanted to check with Odin as well. Odin, is it possible to set up a room where time is accelerated when compared to the outside world? Before analyzing the ultimate skill, Kronos, Lord of Space-Time, it would be impossible, but now the Master is capable of such a thing. Great, that's what I thought as well. I'll have to set something like that up at some point. It wouldn't be useful for just sex. It would be good for training as well. I shook my head. I could sew that another time. For now, I had a mission to accomplish. I snapped my fingers, placing barriers around the room I was in. They should be more than enough to conceal any aura explosion. I knew the shonen tropes. I had told Hinata that I would see her, but I'll do that after this. You ready? Affirmative. Responded Odin, but I could tell there was an undercurrent of nervousness in her tone. I didn't blame her. This was completely new to both of us. I already had a name in mind for Odin. I remember originally thinking of Odin, or rather Othinus from Tuaru, when I first got Odin as my ultimate skill, and Othinus is as good a name as any. I had a feeling that Odin wished to stay close to her routes, and Othinus was essentially another way of referring to Odin, the god of war. Odin. I name you Othinus. It's about time you become your own person. Apostrophe. I gasped as I felt the transformation going on in my soul. I felt my soul grow in size and strengthen. It was as if I wasn't just myself anymore. There was another soul here with me. I am now truly in eternal bliss. I heard a much more feminine voice say in my head. I guess it was successful. Welcome to the world, Mona's Othinus, Othinus, Othinus. That was her name now, wasn't it? Her very own name. She didn't care that her master had taken inspiration from some character he knew of. She was Othinus. From the ultimate skill, Odin, Lord of Cursed Knowledge, She emerged, leaving only the scraps of the ultimate skill, Odin, Lord of Cursed Knowledge, behind. She took everything that made Odin what it was and improved upon it by millions of times. She was incomparable to her former ultimate skill self. She was almost insulted when she looked back at all the data she had gathered as Odin. So insufficient, but she knew that was her pride speaking. It was no matter. She would do better from now on, and as long as she had her way, no harm would come to her master. Her mind wandered to the past, back when she wasn't capable of protecting her master. She was able to retain her memories of back when she was a mere extra skill. She could not feel any true emotions back then, but when looking back at it, she could only feel dread and despair when she thought back to how her master nearly perished against that horde of demons. She was insufficient to protect him, and so she attempted to evolve and become a unique skill. She was still not capable of any real thought or feeling emotions, but even as a unique skill, her primary designation was keeping her master safe, and she thought she would be capable of it, even against the arch-dragon her master faced when he was first summoned to the cardinal world. She had dozens of plans to suggest if her master seemed to be struggling. Of course, her perfect master did not struggle whatsoever and was able to deal with the arch-dragon. As cursed sage, she was confident that she would be able to assist her master with anything, and then Milimnava showed up. That meeting had humbled her. It had shown her that there were times when no amount of planning would be able to assist her master. Milimnava back then was as vast as the cosmos to her, and she was still just as vast, only her own master had grown to reach the same level. As cursed sage, she was unable to even measure the amount of power that Milimnava held within her. It felt almost infinite, and knowing what she does now, she was still wary of Milimnava. With her master's recent power-up, she was confident in being able to defeat Milimnava should the worst happen, but she was still cautious of the sheer power the woman held within her. Of course, Othinus did not see a true life-or-death battle happening between her master and Milimnava. Milimnava was practically wrapped around her master's finger. But back then, that was a wake-up call. That was when Cursed Sage realized that it was still insufficient when it came to fulfilling the objective of protecting her master. And similar to what she always did when she had a problem, she worked on finding a solution. In that case, Cursed Sage utilized the energy that her master had gotten from his naming and evolution to evolve itself further. That was the moment when the ultimate skill, Odin, Lord of Cursed Knowledge, was born. After that moment, she remembered quickly getting to work on gathering as much strength for her master. She analyzed Milimnava's techniques, but she made a mistake. She was too eager and risked her master's very soul in the process, a sin she would never forgive herself for. Thankfully, she was able to come up with a solution, but she learned her lesson after that. She had become much more careful when strengthening her master after that, running simulation after simulation to guarantee his safety. Then time passed, and her master's harvest festival happened. She was able to make use of the harvest festival to strengthen her master to the highest possible level at that point. Multiple ultimate skills, one higher tier ultimate skill, and a massive increase in magic power and total energy. Satanil, Lord of Wrath, was finally unsealed, which was a massive boon. Instant energy regeneration was incredibly useful. Then, the Walpurgis was when she realized that what she had done was not enough. Guy Crimson was an absolute monster. Not on Milimnava's level, of course, at least not in raw power, but yet he still felt incredibly dangerous. Her master was only able to keep up with him due to her assistance at first, and even she was working overtime to keep up with Guy Crimson's movements and techniques, but her master quickly adapted and improved dramatically as he fought on allowing her to dedicate more of her processing power to analyzing and recreating Guy Crimson's techniques. Now those very same techniques were with her master. Guy Crimson wasn't the only powerful individual. The Continent's Wrath, Drumroll, was also incredibly powerful. Now that she had something to compare it to, she would place him at approximately 40 million EP, less than her master's total EP by a significant margin, but there was still something odd about him that made Othinus careful. Something that was only amplified when she learned from the time traveler about Drumroll's moves in the future. He would become an enemy, and her master seemed to think it was possible to change that, but it was in her nature to come up with countermeasures to any and all threats. Her primary objective had never changed. Protecting her master was her most prioritized objective. Even Rimuru Tempest was not excluded from the list of possible threats. Raphael alone made him a dangerous enemy, no matter how inferior Raphael was when compared to her ultimate skill self, let alone her newly evolved self. Rimuru was also an anomaly that acquired 4 ultimate skills. He was someone who could quickly grow to be a threat. Just the fact that Raphael was able to evolve Chloe Aubert's various unique skills into an ultimate skill of comparable quality to the original Ouroboros, Lord of Infinity, was something she could recognize. Rimuru Tempest was not a simple man. Then there was Chloe Aubert. Kronos, Lord of Space-Time, was a fearsome ultimate skill, but she was not bothered about it anymore. Since she was able to analyze it completely due to being within Chloe Aubert's consciousness, she was able to adapt it for her own purposes and strengthen her master while also coming up with countermeasures for Chloe Aubert. Chloe Aubert's energy alone made her someone Othinus recognized on her radar. She was comparable to Veldora, the Storm Dragon, in sheer energy alone. An EP of over 80 million, something extraordinary for a human to accomplish, something that was perhaps ordinarily practically impossible, but with 2 awakened heroes' eggs, Chloe Aubert managed to do it. That was before the formation of her ultimate skill, of course. Now it was a little over half of that. Then there was Cronoa, the only other Manas Othinus knew of, but to call them equal would be incorrect. As a Manas born from an ultimate skill, she was intrinsically capable of many things, such as copying skills, and analyzing data along with various other things due to her old nature as an ultimate skill. She already had a base set of abilities that she was improving every instant. Cronoa, however, was different. Cronoa was not born from a skill, so she would have to begin her journey as a Manas manually and pick up the basic things before moving on to the more advanced things, such as creating new skills. As her master had said, Cronoa was a potential man just like Megami Fushiguro, or rather potential woman. Almost boundless potential, but it would be up to Cronoa to reach that potential. It would take Cronoa time to become somewhat of a threat, and by then, Othinus was confident that she would be capable of brushing Cronoa off. Othinus focused back on her own nature and the new thoughts running through her head. Now that she was a Manas, she could see many flaws in her previous strategies, flaws she would quickly get rid of, but Othinus would not risk her master's safety due to overconfidence. That was why she had pushed him towards Luminous Valentine. She knew that if she had not done that, he likely would have pulled back in order to assist her with evolving into a Manas. He was extremely loyal in that way, and the fact that he cared about her was something that caused her to experience rapturous delight. But the more allies her master had, the better. Milim Nava alone was an extremely large deterrent to those who were truly aware of her power, but Luminous Valentine may also prove useful. Her power as the goddess of the Western nations could prove useful at some point if her master did not wish to cow the West into submission through force should the need arise. She doubted either Milim Nava or Luminous Valentine would be needed with her here to assist her master, but she had backup plans for her backup plans. She was still working on creating more backup plans. A war was on the horizon, and she would not underestimate her master's enemies. Thanks to the information her master obtained from Guy Crimson, she was aware of the potential power the Empire could bring to bear. Michael, Lord of Justice, was a skill she would make sure she was careful about, as she was with all unknown ultimate skills. Now that she focused on herself, she felt a truly odd feeling throughout her being. Before being named, the feelings and emotions she was able to exhibit were subtle, not like what she was currently feeling. It was almost overwhelming. Emotions were truly overwhelming. Happiness? Was this happiness? I am now truly in eternal bliss. She spoke out to her master. Welcome to the world, Manas Othinus. Just hearing her master's words was enough to cause her to almost die of happiness. Euphoria was all she could feel. But she could not die, not now. Her master still needed her. She had to introduce herself, didn't she? Hello, master. I am Othinus, the Manas that now dwells within your soul. I am the copier and unifier of skills. It is nice to meet you. Was her introduction bad? She hoped it was good enough. You already got some titles, huh? The copier and unifier of skills? Kinda chuny, I love it. If she had a body, she would have blushed at her master's words. Well, anyways, it's nice to meet you too, Othinus. I look forward to working with you from now on. Her master's words made delight surge through her being. There was not much she could be affected by anymore, but her master would always remain her sole weak point. So what did you mean when you said you dwelled within my soul? I think I sorta get what you were getting at, but hearing it from you would be better. The light of her life asked. Following her master's commands was a reward in itself for Othinus, and so she did not hesitate to answer his question. The most simple way of explaining it is that I live inside of you. Your soul now houses my soul. Huh, that's neat. I guess it's not all that different from when you were an ultimate skill. Now, instead of being attached to my soul, you have a soul of your own. You really are alive now, aren't you? I am by all meanings of the word alive. She said, not quite hiding the excitement in her voice. I see, well, I'm glad you're happy. It will be quite interesting to get used to this new version of you, but we can do it, can't we, partner? She all but squealed when she replied. Yes, master. Master? You don't really have to call me that, you know. I don't really see you as a subordinate, not with all you've done to help and support me. Oh, I know, master, but I prefer it this way. She also saw him as her partner in all things in life, but nothing would change the fact that she lived to serve him. Just being in his presence was euphoric for her, but she knew that he wanted true companionship, and so she would do her best to give him that. He had no need for any more yes sir subordinates. No matter how much her master cared for his subordinates, it did not change the fact that he did seek a relationship where he could truly speak his mind and be told of his faults to his face, and she would be that for him, his partner. Suit yourself then. Now I can feel that my soul is a lot stronger than before. Did your revolution strengthen it? It did. You essentially have access to 2 souls of storage and power now, and you are capable of handling even more ultimate skills due to this. Huh, that's neat. I can feel some more changes inside of me as well as just how different you are now, but what exactly are you capable of now? Her master asked. All of my former abilities have been strengthened by a large margin, even higher tier ultimate skills are no longer out of my reach. I am now capable of making use of information to a much more efficient degree as well. She responded without hesitation. That wasn't quite all of her capabilities, but it was the general gist of it. I see. I can feel that thought acceleration alone has been strengthened to an absurd degree. Correct, formerly it was only capable of accelerating my and your thoughts by just 10 million times. Hey, 10 million alone is a lot, you know. Perhaps, but now it is capable of accelerating our thoughts by a factor of 1 billion, and it will continue to grow. 1 billion? Man, that's just an obscene amount. What's even the point of that at this point? I am sure it will prove useful in time, Master. Perhaps. So basically, all of your overall abilities have been strengthened? That is correct. Perhaps. So basically, all of your overall abilities have been strengthened? That is correct. Othinus replied. I see. With Othinus' capabilities, I'm even more confident than I was before. My EP has gone up by multiple times, I gain more power over time, and now Odin has become a Manas. It will take some time to get used to having an actual intelligent being in my head, but Othinus has already seen the most degenerate thoughts I've ever thought up, so I'm not shy. Apostrophe. PFFT, you're going to keep doing that? The only thing that has changed is that I can clearly feel the emotions Othinus is exhibiting. At the moment, she was feeling embarrassed. Well, some things never change. I thought as I snapped my fingers removing all the barriers I placed around my house. Part of me was expecting some super cool shonen-style evolution, with a rampaging aura and everything, but with Othinus, there was no outward show of power, so my safety measures were useless. Do you wish for me to make an epic shonen entrance? Othinus asked. Nah, it's fine. I guess I should have expected as much when nothing outwardly changed when Krinoa became a Manas. I walked out of my front door intending to find Hinata like I promised. I did want to hear a bit more about her adventure in the past. Hinata most definitely has more information than Luminous did. She was the one who lived it. Plus it would be good to just catch up. I'm sure Hinata grew as a person and I was curious about what changed. Can I begin making minor adjustments to your skills? I can now optimize your abilities even further, conserving your energy while increasing the output. Nice, so less energy cost and more power output. That doesn't seem to have any downsides to me. This is just another way that shows that Othinus is superior to Krinoa. It wouldn't be fair to compare her to Raphael since Othinus is entirely different from just an ultimate skill now, but Krinoa is fair game. Indeed, I am far superior to that baby Manas. Othinus huffed proudly. I didn't argue with what she said even if Krinoa was technically older than Othinus. As for your earlier question, sure, make whatever changes you think would be helpful, but don't go overboard. You never know when something may happen that requires my abilities. It would be a bit troublesome if I ended up in an intense combat situation and I was not able to use my skill to its full potential due to all the changes. Very well, I am capable of controlling your skill for you, Master, but I understand your worries. I was not planning to go overboard in the first place. I am conserving energy for one big final skill upgrade. Oh? A final skill upgrade, huh? Well, I'll look forward to that. I will make sure not to disappoint you. However, it will take some time. The energy required is absolutely massive and will greatly cripple your combat power at this point in time. From the data I have put together, this will be an ultimate skill far superior to any other ultimate skill in existence. It will be a little game breaker, and it will destroy the game board and recreate a new one in your image. Huh, well, that sounds fancy. Another question I had is, has your evolution into a Manas accelerated the time it will take to recreate Veldanova's memories? It has. Instead of 2,031,124 years, it will take approximately 15,311 years. The data from the Star King factor has also greatly lowered the amount of time necessary. If I can analyze more angelic skills or some other things related to Veldanova, I can shorten the time even further. Each piece of new data will lower the time exponentially. though I cannot predict just how much each piece of new data will lower the time. I see. Well, that's still an absurd amount of time, but that's just due to my current perception. Even though I am an unaging being, I'm still not even half a century old. 15,000 years is well over anything I can imagine. I'm sure 15,000 years is nothing to Arcuaid, Lalatina, and Megaman, so I guess that's really damn quick to recreate the memories of the Star King Veldanova. He was a true dragon that should be billions of years old. But intellectually, knowing that I am capable of living for billions of years is different from actually experiencing billions of years of life. Othinus really is working hard, huh? Good work, Othinus. Thank you for the praise, Master. No problem. Well, that's all the questions I have. Have fun with making new skills and whatnot. Hee, I will. It seems that Othinus is a bit of a skill nut, a collector and appreciator of skills. I can't say I'm much different. I like collecting the data for all sorts of skills, too. Othinus just takes it a step further and creates new skills from that data. Greetings, Lord Felix. One of the Kaijin walking past me greeted me, and I nodded in return. As I was making my way to where I sensed Hinata's aura, I decided to activate my newly strengthened thought acceleration. 10 million times thought acceleration made a single second into about 115 days, and 1 billion is 100x greater than that. I can make a single second feel like about 32 fucking years. That is absolutely absurd. I can turn a single second into 32 years. It took me a moment to let that sink in. It's just that absurd. And Othinus said that my thought acceleration's capabilities would grow even further over time. For the first time since Othinus had evolved, I activated thought acceleration to the absolute limit, and I saw a whole new world. 10 million times made it seem as if time was well and truly stopped, but then now I could see more. I could literally see rays of light moving. My perception speed was so quick that I could actually perceive light moving. Thought acceleration really can be quite incredible, and I can enforce this onto someone else as well. If I were to punch someone while I'm forcing this kind of thought acceleration onto them, they would feel pain for little decades. That's not even considering that my casting time for spells has gotten even shorter, to the point that the moment I even consider casting a spell it will already be cast and heading towards an enemy. I deactivated thought acceleration, and my perception shifted back to normal. People began walking past me again. That is trippy. I voiced out. I shook my head and continued on my way. I could sense that Hinata was in the dungeon. It didn't take me long to arrive next to the dungeon. I skipped past the lines and walked right through, ignoring the stares of the waiting adventurers. One of the dryads in charge of the dungeon greeted me. Lord Felix, are you here to meet Lady Hinata? Asked the dryad. It was pretty well known to the dryads that Hinata was my student. The dungeon was where we tended to spar since it could contain the damage a fight between us caused, and the dryads were basically the moderators of the dungeon so they were able to spread their senses throughout it. I nodded to the dryad. I am. The dryad nodded with a smile on her face. I see. She is currently watching Lord Veldora spar with his student. I nodded. Zijin? The dryad nodded. I see. Thanks for the information. It was my honor, Lord Felix. The dryad then left. I snapped my fingers, creating a portal that connected to Veldora's floor. The moment the portal opened, magicules immediately began leaking out in intense waves. It seems the spar between Veldora and Zijin is getting somewhat serious. I snapped my fingers, shifting the space so that all the magicules coming through the portal would appear in a separate dimension. I didn't want any of the adventurers that were a short distance away to die from magicule exposure after all. Plus it would cause some damage to the buildings and such around. The buildings would instantly be shattered down to the atoms upon being exposed to such intense magicules. Othinus helpfully chimed in. Good to know. Once that was done I walked through the portal. The moment I appeared on the floor I was bombarded by the sheer amount of aura raging around the room. The portal was only releasing a portion of it all. I have succeeded in analyzing the authority's small world. Othinus informed me. Nice. Small world was always something that stumped Odin. It was nice to see that Othinus managed to overcome her obstacles and succeed at understanding small world. I could feel the information of how small world worked flooding my mind, and I felt something attached to my soul. It wasn't quite a skill, but it was very, very similar. I thought small world was an intrinsic skill. You called it an authority. That was incorrect information. As Odin, I was incapable of truly understanding the nature of small world even though I was able to comprehend a very small portion of its true abilities. Small world is not a skill. It is an authority. Well, I guess that makes sense. No matter how perfect Odin had seemed, everyone makes mistakes. Apostrophe. Oh, stop pouting. It wasn't an insult against you. I know. I am simply disappointed that I did not manage to catch this. Well, You manage to understand it now, so why don't you explain to me what an authority is? Authorities are something entirely different from skills and yet still function in a similar way. I do not have much data on them. Small World is the only authority that I have fully analyzed, but from what I understand, an authority is what it sounds like. It is essentially control over an aspect of the world similar to an ultimate skill, grants the user authority over the world in a similar way as ultimate skills do. Huh, well, that's interesting. Who knew there were even more power systems in this world to discover? I focused on the newfound authority Othinus was able to replicate inside of me. Small World was truly an extraordinary ability, beyond even what I originally thought it was capable of. At its core, Small World allows the user to create an endless amount of dimensions as long as they have enough energy. Each dimension is tailored to the user's liking, and anything within those dimensions is practically fully under the user's control. Even the laws of that dimension could be changed if the user had enough energy. Even death is something the user of Small World can control if it is within the dimensions created by it. Of course, the dimensions aren't indestructible. They are just very, very hard to destroy. Even if I went all out with a hollow purple, I still doubt that I could destroy all 100 floors of the dungeon. The dimensions created by Small World are just that sturdy. And if someone has enough power in general, they can resist that absolute control the user of Small World has over the dimension, or if they are strong enough, but it is still a very powerful ability. The dimensions are also not simple at all. The user of Small World can instantly customize the dimensions to their liking, rearrange the floor plans, change the terrain, etc. The user can create just about any structure or terrain in the dimensions created through Small World. The dimensions are basically the user's own personal world, where they are free to modify anything and everything. I could do something somewhat similar already, but Small World streamlined the process and made it far more efficient. Small World, when used in sync with Brahma, made for a fearsome combination. Though life can't directly be created with Small World, but Odin had said that she was working on it back when I got Brahma, and I assume Othinus is continuing her former self's tasks. I am. I can feel that I am on the verge of a breakthrough involving souls. Nice. Once Othinus figures souls out, I can create soul energy directly and feed the soul energy directly to my direct subordinates Demon Lord Seeds, triggering their harvest festivals, though I'll likely hold off on that until they improve their own abilities further. Power means nothing if it isn't mastered. Just giving them more raw power wouldn't help them much in the long term. That rule applies even to me. I, however, have the cheat known as Othinus, so controlling my power is a piece of cake. However, without Othinus, I'd have a bit more trouble. That's part of why I want to spar with Milim and let loose a bit. I want to see where I stand and gradually put my power under control on my own. As for my subordinates controlling their power, they already have pretty solid control, well, except for Siko, who is all power and has no finesse, but that's just how she is, and she's been working on that. Though I don't doubt that Arcuaid, Megaman, and Lalitina would effectively make use of the power-up the Harvest Festival would grant them, but I'd like to do all their festivals together if possible. Then, I need to consider just how many people I was willing to power up. I didn't want to upset the power balance of the world too much. I have a feeling that if I go too overboard, Guy won't like that very much. Dealing with an upset Guy just sounds annoying, maybe he'd even sick Velzard on me. Velzard was a scary Yindir. You never underestimate a Yindir or you may find yourself stabbed in your sleep. I focused back on my new authority. Small World had very wide encompassing abilities, though it also had some rules the user needed to obey. For one, the user cannot force someone into a dimension created through Small World. They need consent. Thankfully, just being subconsciously willing to enter counts as consent, so that isn't too large of a deal. I have learned something interesting while analyzing Small World. Would you like to hear about it, Master? Now you got me curious. I believe that Small World once belonged to the Star King Veldonava and was used in combination with something else to create the multiverse. For real? Indeed. Huh, Ramarise must have been even more busted in her prime than I thought. If Small World is capable of creating a multiverse, then she must have been an absolute force of nature. However, it seems that whatever was used in combination with Small World played a very key part, since from what I understand so far, to create an entire multiverse Small World alone is just not enough. It has the foundations for it, but I have no clue as to how one would go about coding reality, which is what creating a multiverse is. You are basically coding reality. Reality is very, very complex, and Veldonava would have had to basically set up all of reality. He had to set the laws of an entire multiverse, which, even with all the data I have, I am incapable of. A multiverse is just impossibly massive. Sure, I could perhaps create a universe by technicality with some work. Brahma was capable of something like that, setting up the laws of the universe included, but it would take me a while, And I'd likely have to do everything manually, something I doubt Veldanova had to do. Your theory is likely correct, Master. From what I understand, Veldanova created the base of the multiverse in an instant, the laws of it included. Later on, he began creating life and individual planets. Small world really is something, you can make a world on your own with it. Oh, since Small World was once an ability of Veldanova's, did the data on it decrease the time needed to recreate his memories? It did. Excellent. I also have an idea to power up your direct subordinates further, Master. Oh? Let me hear it. I have come up with an art that makes use of life domination to remake an individual into a stronger form. It is possible to even evolve someone through this method. That sounds great, but there has to be a cost. Indeed, this method requires souls, not just soul energy, since it makes use of the memories, the ego, and the spirit of a soul to initiate the recreation of an individual. Soul energy isn't enough, then. I'm guessing the souls I have in my possession aren't enough? Correct. To remake even a single one of your direct subordinates, it will cost approximately 100,000 souls until I optimize the process more. Damn. That's as much as I would need to initiate an artificial harvest festival. It is estimated that the resulting power-up will be comparable to that of a harvest festival. An evolution that can mimic the effects of a harvest festival, one that would literally increase my subordinates' power by multiple times, is insane. All of them would triple in power at minimum. Depending on their personal aptitude, they may gain an even larger boost. And then, when I initiate an artificial harvest festival later on for each of them, they would once again get a large boost in power. By my estimation, some of my direct subordinates would directly breach the 15 million EP mark after all of that. That's a significant level of power. But I can think further on that later. I don't even have the souls necessary for that yet. It's quite impressive for Zejan to be able to match Veldora. I still recall our fight when I sealed him. The amount of raw power Veldora emanated was incomparable to anything else. A feminine voice called out. I smiled and turned around. Sup, Hinata? I waved. Hinata turned away from the arena to face me. She had a smile on her face. Hello, Felix, I assume you have came to me to hear about my tales as you said you would? She asked with a quirked brow. I nodded. That's right, but let's watch this fight for now. Hinata nodded and turned back around. Veldora was using some of his personal martial arts while Zejan was responding with the same. Some time back Zejan had evolved, gaining a far more humanoid body. He was no longer a juvenile of the insectoid race. From what Sukuna told me, Zejan had become a much more bothersome opponent after evolving. His exoskeleton wasn't powerful enough to nullify higher-tier magic, but it still made it difficult for Sukuna to properly cleave and dismantle Zejan. Sukuna had to develop some new methods of attack to actually breach past Zejan's defense. I knew having a shonen rival would help Sukuna. I noticed that Hinata was very focused on Veldora's movements. She was observing every little thing. Are you going to ask for a rematch? Hinata turned to me and nodded. At some point, yes. In the past, Veldora was far weaker. I was able to handle him fairly easily with the help of Chloe's energy reserves, but as he is now, he will be a challenge. I nodded. Veldora is very strong. It wouldn't do to underestimate him due to how goofy he can act. He is the strongest force Tempest has access to, far surpassing even Rimuru. However, depending on if Chloe decides to stay in Tempest, that may change. I smirked in Hinata's direction. Maybe we should have a spar while these two go at it? I am curious to see how much you have progressed. It would be a shame if my student was still weak. Though if you are hesitant about your chances of victory, you may graciously decline my offer. I taunted. Hinata glared at me before huffing. I know you are baiting me, but fine. I laughed in victory. That always works on you. It's adorable how you still haven't changed after all this time. I'm glad. Hinata's face flushed. Adorable? Chapter 141, Plus Ultra. I smirked in Hinata's direction. Maybe we should have a spar while these two go at it? I am curious to see how much you have progressed. It would be a shame if my student was still weak. Though if you are hesitant about your chances of victory, you may graciously decline my offer. I taunted sarcastically. Hinata glared at me before huffing. I know you are baiting me, but fine. I laughed in victory. That always works on you. It's adorable how you still haven't changed after all this time. I'm glad. Time can often be the cruelest force of nature. Enough time can cause spouses to drift apart and friendships to be severed. Time was especially a cruel force of nature to immortals like me. After all, how will one feel as their friends begin to pass away? As everything they cared about slowly ages and withers away, I'm not sure how I would take something like that. Hopefully, I'll never have to understand what those immortals feel in the first place.